Standing in a military training lineup in Shanghai back in September, I felt like the blazing sun was trying to slow roast me, like an absolute rotisserie chicken. With the temperature hitting 40 degrees, the asphalt was literally smoking, and my brain was boiling inside my skull, just like a forgotten pot of instant noodles. Out of nowhere, a strange robotic voice suddenly echoed inside my head. Goddess development system activated. Cool, cool. Totally normal stuff. My already fried brain instantly went into full microwave mode. My vision went completely blank, and I face-planted straight onto the rubber track like a falling tree. Total chaos erupted everywhere around me. My roommate, Wong, who somehow always sounds like a strangled duck, started screaming louder than anyone else in the entire squad. Bro, don't die on me. You literally promised to buy me lunch today, and you haven't paid yet. Then he started yelling for some random pretty girl to come give me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Real helpful. Thanks a lot, buddy. As they dragged my limp body under a shady tree, I lay there wheezing weakly, forced to listen to Wong's wildly dramatic crying performance. Honestly, my headache only got 10 times worse just from hearing his voice. I wanted to jump right up and roundhouse, kick him so bad. Right then, my crappy secondhand phone started buzzing violently. It was Mom. Her voice messages came blasting through the speaker like a loud foghorn. Sweetie, I just sent you some extra cash. So don't be cheap while living in the big city. Buy the girls some bubble tea and bring me home a gorgeous girlfriend. Buy winter break. Classic mom behavior. Our family runs a modest little restaurant back in our small hometown, and while we're doing okay, we're definitely not rich. I figured she had wired me maybe 3 or 5,000 yuan tops. With trembling fingers, I opened my banking app, and the notification displayed a staggering 100 million yuan. My hand started shaking like I was holding onto a slippery, thrashing fish. I thought to myself that Mom didn't just rob a local bank. She must have straight up kidnapped the bank manager too. Seeing all those zeros spinning on the screen made me dizzy. Just then, Wong shoved his big, sweaty face right into mine. Are you okay, bro? I slammed my screen off so fast I nearly fractured my thumb. I think I need to go lie down in the nurse's office. I groaned aloud, trying my best to sound weak and pitiful. Now, lying here on a narrow medical cot and staring blankly at the ceiling, it finally hit me after 10 solid minutes of processing. Mom didn't rob anyone. That mysterious system voice inside my head had actually deposited 100 million cold hard bucks into my account. For real. And here's the absolute best part. There were 0 stupid strings attached. No annoying, spend it all on women or die nonsense to worry about. And no harsh penalties forcing me to buy luxury bags for random strangers daily. This massive fortune belonged entirely to me. I could buy 100,000 greasy meat buns and feed them all to stray dogs, if I felt like doing it. And the system wouldn't even bat an eye. I was lying on the bed grinning like an absolute idiot, when an ice-cold voice suddenly drifted over from the foot of the bed. Faking a heat stroke just to skip afternoon training is going to cost you credit points. I whipped my head around, and even with my half-cooked brain, my breathing completely stopped. Standing right there draped in an oversized white coat was Manga, known widely as the finance department's icy royalty. She rocked a ponytail and a graceful swan-like neck, with curves that even a loose lab coat failed to conceal. Every single guy on campus secretly crushed on her. She basically stood as the absolute final boss of university beauty rankings. Rumor had it her family was dead broke, leaving her to support a younger sister still in high school, which meant she constantly hustled between grueling side gigs, even scrubbing cafeteria floors. Yet somehow, she always strutted around looking like a high-fashion model. The more miserable her financial situation got, the more untouchable and stunning she appeared, fueling the urge for every guy to try and break through her defenses. Yesterday, I would have been way too intimidated to even glance at her, remaining just another broke college freshman lacking any real game or self-assurance. But today, a massive 100 million yuan sat comfortably in my bank account, acting as a total nuclear-powered confidence booster. Cold hard cash really is pure liquid courage for guys. No cap, senior. I threw out casually, this is a genuine heat stroke moment. Feel my forehead right now if you refuse to believe me. She wasn't buying my act, check my vital signs instead, and declare my temperature completely normal, before threatening to report me directly to our class advisor. The split second she uttered that word advisor, my memory instantly pulled up trauma files from orientation day, featuring Ms. Suman wearing those sharp gold-rimmed glasses. in a white blouse that was fighting for its dear life against the buttons, paired with a sleek black pencil skirt that struck pure terror into the hearts of the entire freshman class. She resembled an intimidating queen, who somehow inherited a world-class supermodel physique. Then the mystical system chimed once more, scanning Manga and rating her at an elite SSS tier level, highlighting her fatal flaw as a financial defense line standing right on the brink of collapse. Essentially speaking, she was a single rent payment away from a total meltdown. The system was literally handing me an absolute cheat code. Yet I didn't rush in blindly. Typical novel protagonists would spot this kind of reward and immediately start drooling while chasing girls like desperate simps. Not me, though. I moved differently. Possessing 100 million with zero strings attached meant I never had to beg anyone for anything ever again. Once you start throwing that kind of serious bag around, people naturally come chasing after you instead. My thoughts also drifted back toward my toxic ex, Guo Xingyue, who dumped me mercilessly on graduation night, claiming I could never offer her any secure future. Word went around that her twin sister also enrolled at my school. Just imagine the priceless expression on her face upon finding out. Actually, scratch that. Taking revenge on an ex felt way too tacky and utterly exhausting. I just wanted to kick back, coast through life, and enjoy all the luxury I could previously only dream about in my wildest thoughts. Living out that ultimate lazy lifestyle, however, demanded having someone capable handle all the boring chores. Being a multimillionaire now meant I definitely couldn't stand in a cafeteria line anymore, clutching a cheap plastic tray like some ordinary broke peasant, right? And standing right in front of me happened to be a girl desperately in need of cash, known for being insanely responsible and possessing plenty of experience juggling 10 jobs at once. Feeling like a total boss, I casually kicked back against the mattress with zero stress and threw out, "Hey, senior, I hear you're juggling a million side hustles." For a split second, she completely froze up. "What's it to you?" "Nothing much. Just realize those gigs pay absolute peanuts for the grind. How about dropping all of them right now and locking down an exclusive contract with me instead?" Her eyebrow gave a twitch as she demanded, "What's that supposed to mean?" "Just be my personal life assistant, running errands, picking up grub, and keeping my place tidy. Basically, handling all the low-key, annoying daily stuff so I don't have to bother." Tossing my phone back and forth in my hand like it was no big deal, I casually dropped my pitch, room and board included, plus 10,000 a month with bonuses if you crush it. Everyone's always hyping up how epic college life is supposed to be, so I figured it was time to put that myth to the test. Unsurprisingly, the Ice Queen shut me down instantly. Shocker, didn't see that coming at all. Go hire an actual housekeeper from an agency. The nurse's office definitely doesn't offer that kind of service. With that, she spun on her heel and stormed out, her crisp white coat whipping behind her, like a dramatic cinematic exit, and leaving a faint trail of orange-scented perfume in the air. As I watched her vanish, I thought to myself, yeah, if 10 grand a month could melt an actual glacier, she wouldn't be worthy of that SSS rating. I called out after her retreating figure, "Hey, senior, I'll keep a spot open for you for a whole week." Her footsteps stumbled for a split second, and then she slammed the door shut. Beautiful. What I had no idea about was that, just on the other side of that barrier, she had frozen in the hallway to pull up her bank app. 312 yuan. Her student loan wouldn't even drop until the 10th. Cafeteria wages wouldn't clear until the very end of the month. And her little sister's tuition fees were still coming up short. Staring blankly at that sad balance, she locked her screen, effectively burying my ridiculous offer right along with it in the dark. Meanwhile, back inside, I checked my phone to find that my old man had finally texted. See, my dad always waits until mom is completely out of sight, just to make damn sure she isn't lurking over his shoulder first. His voice note came through, sounding quieter than a mosquito with a sore throat. "Son, did your mom send you any cash? Can you spot your old man?" Followed by 5 awkward seconds of absolute silence. "Your mother has officially slapped me with economic sanctions. She confiscated my favorite fishing rod. I haven't hit the reservoir in 3 whole days, and my hands are literally itching." I almost choked. My dad literally has 2 main hobbies in this life: fishing and getting chased down by mom wielding a rolling pin. And honestly, those 2 hobbies usually happen back to back. Every single time he sneaks a new rod into the house, mom chases him through 3 neighborhood blocks, screaming at the top of her lungs that the fish he catches costs way less than the gear he bought. I texted right back, "Dad, 500 is way too low. I'll wire you 2,000 so you can actually buy something decent. And stop coming home empty-handed. The exact second that transfer notification popped up, my dad's voice note came exploding back in pure hype, with the speaker blasting that 2000s track at full capacity. All your dating cash was handed right over to me. What are you going to pull off, Dad? Looking like that. Do you really think pulling girls takes any cash? To be completely real, I wanted to drop him way more funds. However, if a couple million were wired back home right this second, Mom would hop on the fastest bullet train bound for Shanghai to tear through my wardrobe and grill me on whether I joined some sketchy MLM scheme. Gotta pace this whole thing out carefully. Another nap was just about to be caught by me when the doors suddenly flew wide open again. Yet instead of that citrus perfume vibe, the heavy, savory aroma of braised chicken rice hit me first. A full 3 seconds before Wang Hao even appeared. How on earth is chicken soup getting delivered this fast? He came barreling inside, holding 2 heavy takeout bags. His face sunburned to such a deep, toasted shade. It was basically glowing crimson, while flashing a massive grin from ear to ear. A quick glance at the receipt was taken by me. 2 massive braised chicken combos loaded with extra sausage and tofu skin, totaling 46 yuan, which doesn't sound like much at all. Though, this guy's entire monthly spending money barely clears 1,000. He literally just dropped 5% of his monthly allowance on lunch for us. That right there's a real one, totally annoying yet genuine. Perched on the edge of the stiff hospital mattress, we dug into our food. As Wang Hao ranted about the drill sergeant being a total psycho, in between bites before inevitably steering the chat toward his absolute favorite obsession. Oh dude, one X9 walked right past the training field earlier today. His chopsticks froze dead in midair, while his eyes went completely into sparkle mode. Sporting a low ponytail and a basic white tee, she looked unreal, like she was gliding in slow motion. Absolutely breathtaking, and then she just strolled right past without throwing a single glance my way. Not even once. His voice plummeted from a mountain peak down to the ocean floor, faster than someone taking a bungee jump. As it turns out, the girl was a senior from his old high school, who dropped by to give a college recruitment speech. And he literally chose this specific university entirely because of her. So how long have you been chasing after her, bro? Was my question, to which he replied. Technically, I haven't even started yet. I've just been quietly lurking on her social media feeds. For 2 whole years, a gaze was fixed by me on his large, dark, hopeful expression, and the symptoms were diagnosed instantly. This guy was suffering from stage 1 simp disease. My chopsticks were set down as my phone was pulled out. What's your payment app ID, man? Just look at this. As payback for carrying me all the way to the nurse's office. His number was mumbled out through a mouthful of rice. While he probably expected me to Venmo him his half of the lunch cost, which came out at 23 bucks suddenly, his phone buzzed. He looked down immediately, and that piece of chicken on his chopsticks hovered frozen in midair. For a solid 3 seconds straight. 10,000 yuan. Closing the app down, he reopened it only to find the exact same number staring right back. Logging out and logging back and didn't change a thing. It was still sitting there for someone scraping by on 1,000 yuan a month. This must have felt like discovering half an alien finger. Dropping like a total noob in your cafeteria, cabbage. What the actual heck? Wang Hao let out. A chaotic noise that defied every single law of human vocal biology. His pitch violently shifted from deep baritone straight into a supersonic dolphin frequency. His chopstick slipped right out of his fingers, clattering onto the tiles unnoticed. With both white-knuckled hands, he gripped his phone tight, his wide eyeballs practically bulging out of his sockets. In true, unhinged cartoon fashion. Sumo, where in the world did you secure 10 grand? Did you fake a heat stroke? Or did you straight up rob a bank and sprint to the nurse's station to lay low from the feds? Huh. I shoved his overly dramatic face away. Will you please tone it down? The entire dorm block can hear your clowning. Flushing deep crimson, he immediately dropped to a hiss, though somehow his sketchy whisper felt way more cursed. Did some loaded sugar mama adopt you? Did you sell yourself out? Whatever hustle you pulled, you better bring me along. My family's old homestead just got leveled for a massive project. I muttered straight-faced without blinking an eye. A brief pause froze Wang Hao before he slammed his thigh, acting like an amateur detective cracking a cold case. Oh, I get it now. Your hometown is wrapped up in that new municipal zone thing, right? I caught a viral news snippet about it. Whole rural communities are getting bulldozed to dust. and every household is walking away with a bag of millions. Honestly, I wasn't even sure if those rumors were legit, until he suddenly added, "No wonder your mom dropped that huge bag. Just look at your busted phone screen. You're clearly still trying to adapt to being rolling in cash. This guy seriously needs to drop out and write scripts, because his talent for pulling a bulletproof conspiracy out of thin air was genuinely Hollywood tier." Moments later, a wave of reality sobered him up. "Bro, this is your hard-earned family paper. I shouldn't be pocketing any of it." However, one XIN just posted on her feed that she's craving the newest iPhone release. Studying his expression, he was greedy yet fundamentally loyal, getting hyped over the sudden influx of funds, while instantly stressing over keeping my secret locked down. He's a solid ride or die at heart, though. It's always guys like him who get friend-zoned and stuck on the permanent backup bench. You haul my dead weight all the way here, plus bought me a meal out of your own tight budget. So that makes you my brother in arms. The funds are yours. I do have one catch, though. Sitting bolt upright with full focus, he urged, "Name your terms. I'll call you master if you want. Stop acting like a total simp," I warned him in a low murmur, while completely meaning business. "You can drop this cash on getting her that phone she wants, or you can invest it into leveling up your own life. Dealer's choice." Locking eyes with me for a few tense seconds, he finally gave a slow, heavy nod. Message received, and I'm definitely paying every cent back. Choosing not to press the issue any further, I recalled all the wild gossip scattered across campus forums. The 4 reigning campus queens were a different breed of high maintenance, with Jiang Wanqing standing out as the most unpredictable of them all. Operating as the student council VP, she boasted the most colorful and messy reputation in the entire squad. Chasing after her mint Wang, Hao was playing way out of his depth, though that was his own war to fight, not mine. Stepping out of the nurse's office, we emerged into the blazing hallway, and low-key crashed right into our class baddie, Lin Jiahua. She'd already been unanimously crowned the ultimate class goddess by every single guy in our dorm on day one, ever since someone sneaky snapped a photo of her, looking adorably lost during orientation, and blasted it all over the internet. Right then, she was rocking a full face of glam that had somehow survived brutal military training, in 40-degree heat without a single smudge in sight. Honestly, that level of waterproofing definitely deserves a patent. She drifted past me, throwing a polite little smile, though I caught her gaze linger on my cracked phone screen for half a beat before she quickly looked away. Keeping up the chatter with her 2 besties, she chimed in, "Did you hear some dude rolled up to military training in an Audi A6 and parked it right next to the field? Apparently, he's actually kind of cute too." They giggled as they drifted down the corridor. Wang Hao leaned over and whispered, "That's just Xiao Zixian from the next door class. Every guy on campus already knows. An A6, an A7, whatever. Who even cares? It's just a car." Having just snagged my driver's license over summer break, I had barely survived the parallel parking test, but that shiny license was burning a hole in my pocket, and a cool 100 million was sitting pretty in my bank account. There was zero chance I'd keep pedaling around campus on a shared bike like some hardcore eco-warrior. Giving Wang Hao a sharp pat on the shoulder, I muttered, "Cover for me at afternoon drills. And tell the sergeant I'm totally out cold from heat exhaustion. I've got urgent business to take care of. Say no more, I got you." 30 minutes later found me standing right outside a gleaming Porsche dealership just 3 subway stops away. The showroom floor was spotless, stretching out behind massive floor-to-ceiling glass, while a group of female sales reps in sharp, tailored suits stood casually near the entrance. One tall employee was endlessly scrolling on her phone, and then there was me in my camo training t-shirt, baggy basketball shorts, and beat-up Adidas mesh sneakers, looking like I had literally just wandered off a construction zone. Yet, let's be real. When you're sitting on 100 million in the bank, even if your kicks only set you back $40, you strut into a luxury car showroom, acting like you own the entire joint. Meanwhile, back at the chaotic university cafeteria kitchen, Machanga was wrapped in an apron, shredding through potatoes faster than the veteran cafeteria staff, until her phone suddenly buzzed with a text from her younger sister. "Sis, Annie dropped by again today," and she and Mom got into another massive screaming match. I marched right into that Porsche dealership, like I owned the place, which, to be fair, I was literally about to. Picture this scene: my camo training tee, oversized basketball shorts, and squeaky Adidas sneakers were clicking against the polished marble floor, like a hyperactive duck having a fit. The blast of Arctic air conditioning hit me like a wave of pure relief. While just behind me, a cluster of female sales reps in tight pencil skirts kept gossiping loudly about their designer handbags. A solitary glance was cast in my direction, and their inner thoughts practically echoed loud and clear in my head. Just another college brat farming for TikTok clout. That woman right there, rocking eyeliner thick enough to double as riot gear, gave the quiet girl in the corner a sharp nudge. Lil Han, go deal with this absolute clown, since he's probably just here to catch some free AC. And don't you dare let him touch a single steering wheel. Shoved roughly in my direction was an intern named Han Shu Yao, clicking across the glossy floor in 7-centimeter stilettos, while clad in the corporate uniform of a tight pencil skirt and sheer black stockings. Her legs were outrageously stunning, prompting me to stare for a solid second before concluding. What a crime it was for legs like that not to be pumping a delivery bike. She wore a smile that was aggressively plastered on with retail survival, yet her under-eye circles were so pitch black. It looked like she'd just taken a right hook from insomnia itself. This poor soul was one missed sales quota away from being 6 feet under. Word on the floor was that she was dead last in sales this month, meaning if she didn't bag commission fast, her desk will be cleared out by tomorrow morning. Consequently, even though she was 99% convinced I was wasting her life, she had to treat me like literal royalty. Good afternoon, sir. Which model has caught your eye today? A catalog the thickness of a phone book was thrust into my hands, just as a system chime rang in my brain, ranking her a 92 in looks and a solid 95 in body stats. Impressive numbers indeed, but I'd already ghosted a 96 rated ice queen this morning. So did they really think a pair of stockings would make me simp? Please. The brochure remained untouched in my grip, and the standard commuter cars weren't even given a sideways glance. My eyes swept across the entire showroom instead, marching straight toward the center stage, to halt right in front of the main event. A jet black, fully decked out Panamera, bathed in spotlights like a royal throne. It was practically radiating pure generational wealth. This one's in stock, right? My finger pointed at it, as casually as if I were picking out a head of lettuce at a grocery store. Han Xiao Yao immediately panicked, fumbling through her binder. You have exceptional taste, sir. This masterpiece is the top-tier Executive Extended Edition, featuring a 4-liter twin-turbo engine, bespoke leather upholstery, and 21-inch sport alloy wheels. Stop, stop, stop. I interrupted with a dismissive wave, clarifying that I was buying a whip, rather than taking a written mechanics exam. A nod was sent toward the black Panamera, followed by a pivot to point at a cherry red 911, sitting on the adjacent platform. Let me ask you one basic thing. Are both of these currently available? And if so, drop a combined price on me right now. An absolute graveyard silence fell over the showroom, so quiet you could practically hear a pin drop on the marble tiles. Over by the coffee bar, Big Cicely, the veteran senior sales rep, let out a loud snort before slapping her hand over her mouth. The rest of the sales staff began whispering amongst themselves, darting suspicious glances around for hidden cameras, because they were certain a prank video was being filmed. Not a single one of them mattered to me at that moment, so my hand slid straight down into the pocket of my camo cargo pants. Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out my beaten-up postal savings card, its edges frayed and the paint chipping off in tiny flakes. This was that exact same vintage card my parents handed over to me back when I was a kid, specifically set up for storing all my New Year's cash gifts. And now, it was low-key loaded with a casual $100 million. With a sharp flick, I slapped it down hard against the sleek black hood of the Panamera. Clack! Now hurry up and swipe that thing. You better process this paperwork fast because I need to get back to school. I've got classes to catch. Hancheo stood there staring blankly at that battered piece of plastic, looking like she was witnessing someone sleepwalking in broad daylight. Then she snapped out of it, dashing frantically toward the finance office on her spindly high heels, her footsteps clicking furiously across the floor tiles like a panicked woodpecker. Barely 30 seconds ticked by before the POS machine let out a sharp beep. The payment receipt instantly spooled out, displaying a staggering 5.4 million yuan. Full payment confirmed, and the transaction completely finished. Hancho dropped her gaze to that massive figure, and her knees instantly went completely weak under her weight. She nearly collapsed right then and there, sinking down onto the plush carpet of the finance office. Big Cicely was right in the middle of taking a gentle sip of warm water, the exact moment she caught the finance manager's overly excited announcement echoing through the room. She violently sprayed that mouthful of water straight onto her poor colleagues. Freshly applied makeup, acting like a malfunctioning human lawn sprinkler. Then she froze stiff right where she stood, her eyes glued to the open finance room door, as if she had just spotted a ghost wandering around in broad daylight. Every single salesperson who had spent the last hour mocking and laughing at me was now silently doing frantic, high-speed mental math in their heads, realizing that the hefty commission on 2 luxury whips like those was easily enough to cover a down payment on a prime apartment right in Shanghai. It was like a massive pile of cash had literally fallen from the sky, and by pure fluke, it had landed straight onto the intern, whom they had arrogantly tossed aside like unwanted table scraps. Big Sis Lee materialized right by my side in a fraction of a second, faster than a teleporting insect, the heavy makeup on her face visibly cracking from the sheer, awkward force of her fake, wide smile. "Sir, you're honestly way too generous. Little Han over there is still just a clueless newbie intern. She doesn't even have the proper clearance to handle a massive deal of this scale. What if there's some kind of clerical error in the contract? Look, I'm the top-performing salesperson in this whole showroom. Let me personally escort you into our private VIP lounge to finalize the paperwork. We provide exceptionally exclusive VIP services tailored for premium clientele. Like yourself," she blurted out. Pushing those exclusive services sounded as robotic as someone reciting a late-night room service menu at 2 a.m., ignoring her entirely without even a sideways glance. I immediately turned my attention toward the sales manager, who had just power-walked over in his sharp-tailored suit. "Listen here, if these 2 luxury cars end up registered under anyone else's name besides hers, I'm walking straight across the street to buy from Ferrari instead." Realizing the gravity of the situation, the manager proved to be sharp-witted. He instantly whipped around to face Big Sis Lee with a scowl. "If I ever catch you trying to snake someone else's deals ever again, don't even bother showing your face at work tomorrow morning." Defeated, she slunk away in silence, looking thoroughly humiliated as if she had just been slapped across the face with a wet fish. Han Xiaoyao's eyes were puffed up and glowing bright red like ripe cherries. She carefully guided me back toward the private VIP room, nearly tripping over the door threshold in her nervous haze. While I sat down to sign the final paperwork, she humbly knelt down beside the edge of the oversized leather sofa, leaning in so closely at such a revealing angle that, well, let's just be honest for a second, being insanely rich definitely grants you VIP access to certain breathtaking scenic views that ordinary folks rarely ever get to experience. Right after we wrapped things up, she whipped out her personal phone. "Mind if I add you on WeChat, just in case you ever need any help? Whether it's car stuff or literally anything else. Hit me up 24/7, and I'll come running at the drop of a hat." Suddenly, a cheerful chime echoed inside my brain. "Hanesu yo. Development progress hit 10%, claiming your stage reward now. Major congrats on unlocking a top-floor penthouse suite at Thompson Riviera, complete with property deeds and key cards already stashed away in the Panamera's glove box, alongside a sweet bonus perk, master-level driving skills." I arched a brow in disbelief. Hold up, that actually counted? I barely even lifted a finger. This system was handing out freebies, way more generously than a rigged carnival booth. Barely an hour later, everything was completely sorted out. The shiny red 911 got winched up onto a flatbed trailer, destined for a parking lot near campus. Sliding into the plush driver's seat of the Panamera, the buttery leather wrapped around me like a cozy cloud, while those elite driving skills flooded straight into my muscle memory. Instantly, I practically transcended from a rookie who almost tanked his parallel parking exam into a seasoned cab driver with 3 decades under his belt, all in about 2 seconds flat. I slammed the pedal to the metal. The engine let out a fierce roar like a waking dragon, and the sleek ride launched in a traffic straight like a bullet, leaving a cluster of senior sales reps behind, sweltering under the blazing midday sun, grinding their teeth with so much frustration. You could hear the crunch over the street noise. Meanwhile, back over at the university's second cafeteria, Machanga was hunched over a grease-stained sink, wearing an oversized, shapeless work uniform, slaving away through a mountain of dirty plates with hands that were completely raw and bleached white. Her sister had just texted about their leech of an ant pulling stunts again, showing up uninvited, and this time actually making off with their backyard chickens. On top of that, there was an expensive upcoming school trip that her little sister desperately needed funds for. Chang'e couldn't stop thinking about how easily some of her classmates pulled in fast cash through modeling gigs or doing live streams. Though a wave of nausea hit her every time those shady DMs crossed her mind, lost deep in her anxious thoughts. A slippery ceramic plate dropped from her grasp and shattered into pieces on the tiles. The stern cafeteria supervisor immediately stomped right over and docked $50 right out of her daily wages on the spot, snapping, "Break one more thing and you're out of here." Changa dropped to her knees, carefully gathering up the jagged shards with her bare fingers. 50 yuan was less than the price of her roommate's fancy afternoon latte. Yet to her, it felt like pouring salt straight onto an open wound. Deep down in the back of her mind, that sketchy suggestion her roommate made earlier began echoing again. I cruised back onto campus riding in my brand new matte black Panamera, one hand casually resting on the wheel, as if I'd been flexing luxury whips my entire life. Instead of nearly failing my parking test just 2 months ago, the powerhouse engine let out a low growl through the quiet, dusk-lit campus atmosphere, like a proud lion wandering into a silent library. Campus girls were swarming all over this ride like flies on sugar, with one of them secretly snapping photos on her phone. Another senior student rocking a miniskirt literally paused mid-stride just to fake tying her laces and sneak a longer peek, though none of that mattered to me, since I was low-key starving after that half portion of braised chicken from earlier at lunch, which had fully burned off roughly 7 hours ago. While all the spots near campus served that weird Shanghai sweet taste I still couldn't vibe with, so naturally, the proud owner of a 5 million yuan Porsche strolled straight into the campus convenience store to pick up a quick cup of instant noodles and 2 sausage sticks for a grand total of maybe 8 yuan. Parking the Panamera right beneath the dorm entrance, I clutched my plastic noodle bag and trekked up all 5 flights of stairs to room 502, where Wang Hao was sitting shirtless on his top bunk, giving off major, sad, sunburned potato vibes. The exact moment his eyes caught my plastic bag, he went wide-eyed and lunged right at me, as if I were a wounded soldier just limping home from battle. "Sumo, did you hand over your entire family fortune? And that's why you're eating this trash? I'm transferring everything back to you right now, bro." While already frantically fumbling for his phone, I stared back like he had suddenly grown a second head. "Is your head literally stuffed with beach water? I just wasn't in the mood for sweet food. Are you seriously trying to tell me that instant noodles aren't top tier? Stop being extra for no reason and go fetch some hot water," giving me a deeply suspicious look for a solid 10 seconds. He finally decided I wasn't just faking being broke and trotted off down the hallway, holding his red thermos, acting like an obedient golden retriever. Right then, a loud scream burst out from the balcony, as Lu Chong, our resident roommate, who had somehow earned the title Campus Wikipedia just 3 days after enrollment, hung half his torso right over the safety railing and pointed frantically down at my car, completely losing his cool and shouting, "Dudes, get your butts over here right now. There's an absolute mega-rich kid hiding right in our school. That is a fully loaded Panamera Executive Edition parked down there. Just look at that paint job and how crazy it shines." Mo, our quiet coder roommate, who practically lives glued to the top bunk like a nesting owl, actually stopped typing code, climbed down the ladder, pushed up his thick glasses, and peeked over the railing. "That definitely looks pricey. Wonder if it belongs to some student or professor." Lu Chong instantly switched over to expert mode, rubbing his hands together with nervous excitement. Like an overly caffeinated car show host. "Pricey? It's insanely pricey, bro. Did you see those massive 21-inch sport rims? You pay tens of thousands extra just to get those wheels. And the interior is 100% premium full leather. I can literally spot the red stitching from up here. Fully loaded like this, that ride is easily over 3 million, which is basically a down payment on a luxury Shanghai apartment." Stepping out onto the balcony, while holding my steaming cup of noodles, I blew on the broth, took a massive, noisy slurp of that spicy, sour goodness, and then casually glanced down at my own ride. Yeah, it's not bad. Though I suppose the driver's seat has quite a few blind spots. Honestly, that review I gave right after driving it back was dead-ass 100% genuine. No cap, pura criticism. Room 502 suddenly fell completely dead quiet. Spinning around on his heel, Lu Chong fixed his gaze straight at me, as I stood there rocking a camo tee, clutching a styrofoam cup of instant ramen, and looking down at me with the same heavy pity you'd reserve for a stray kitten. "Bro, please stop flexing. You're literally slurping cup noodles. What the heck do you even know about Porsches? My cousin's homie actually drives a 718. One of these days I'll borrow it and take you guys for a spin. While gripping a thermal flask, Wang Hao was standing right behind him, his jaw hanging wide open like he was about to blow a gasket. The real story was known to him. He knew I had thrown 10 grand his way without even blinking an eye. But if he happened to spill the beans to Lu Chong, who was undeniably the biggest gossip across our entire campus, before tomorrow morning rolled around, even the stray dogs hanging around the quad would find out I was rolling in dough. So Wang Hao just froze in his tracks, his face turning deep purple from holding back the secret. And finally, he managed to spit out the most useless defense in human history. It's probably just some random professor's whip anyway. Plus, Lu Chong, let's be real. All you ever do is stalk car forums online. Maybe Sumo is right about sports cars sitting way too low to the ground. They're probably not even comfortable to ride in. Giving a nonchalant shrug, I went right back to devouring my noodles. Drops of vibrant red chili oil dripped right onto the plastic spoon, as I considered how easily I could pull the luxury car fob out of my pocket. Right at that exact second and tap the unlock button. The headlights would flash instantly, and Lu Chong would probably spend the rest of the evening clinging tightly to my legs while belting out love songs on the balcony. That's just not my vibe at all. I'm totally straight, and I definitely don't swing that way when it comes to my roommates. Lu Chong, fully convinced he had just won the great Porsche debate of room 502, grabbed his phone off the desk and immediately opened up the crowded campus forum app. The page was already blowing up. The top trending post was plastered with 3 massive exclamation marks. $1 million supercar spotted parked right outside the guy's dorm. It featured high-definition photos taken from multiple different angles, along with hundreds of comments from everyone trying to figure out which ultra-wealthy trust fund baby was hiding among us. Meanwhile, over across campus at the girls' residence hall, our resident class beauty Lin Jia was lounging comfortably on her mattress draped in a sleek silk camisole, her face completely covered by a pricey Japanese sheet mask, as she lazily scrolled through that exact same viral thread, pinching the screen to zoom in closely on the Panamera picture. She studied every single detail, remembering how earlier that morning she had watched Xiao Zixuan from the next class over pull up in his Audi A6 while desperately trying to show off, even attempting to slide into her WeChat DMs through her roommate, prompting her to let out a mental scoff. Sure, an A6 was alright, I guess, but she would much rather cruise around in that Panamera instead. If she could secure the passenger seat in that ride, she'd gladly give up eating at the cafeteria for the next 4 years straight. And back in the old dilapidated dormitory building, Muchanga sat in complete solitude on her bottom bunk bed, while all of her roommates had already finished their makeup and headed out for their evening dates. Outside, cicadas buzzed loudly in the sultry night air while the dorm room sat in utter silence. Staring back at her was the digital ledger of her bank account glowing on the screen. A meager $300, barely enough for herself if she decided to skip a few meals. Yet financial pressure weighed heavily on her family as well. Shutting her eyes tight, she forced down the heavy storm raging deep within her chest. Swiping away from the banking portal, she tapped open that suspicious application recommended by her roommate. Her fingertips trembled slightly against the protective glass. Promotional banners for high-paying gig work flashed across the display. Quickly, she scanned through the available listings. Every single option reeked of shady, low-key, inappropriate undertones. Vague listings for late-night companion gigs and entertainment hosting filled the feed. Jobs communicated entirely through unspoken code words. Messages that every desperate college student instantly read between the lines. Hot tears finally spilled over her lower lashes. Droplets splashed directly onto the cracked, scratched-up surface of her phone display. Down went the final slurp of my midnight instant noodles, finished to the last drop. Even the soggy cabbage bits lingering at the bowl's bottom were devoured. Strict personal standards guided my eating habits. No single noodle deserved to be left behind, period. In all seriousness, though, my bank app flashed a cool 100 million yuan balance. Meanwhile, my body was stretched out on a hard wooden plank bed, stuck inside a dorm room, smelling strongly of old sneakers and pure regret. This setup was honestly a total crime against capitalism. It was high time I checked out that luxury apartment drop. The system had conveniently stored the keys right inside my glove compartment. Leaning over, I peered directly over Lu Chong's broad shoulder. The guy looked like he was literally trying to make out with his mobile screen. He kept zooming in on viral campus forum photos featuring my brand new sports car. Jo Luchon. You're literally drooling all over your tech device. It's just a regular black Porsche, bro. Come on, throw some clothes on. Roll out with me tonight. I need a local insider to give me an epic tour of Shanghai. Consider yourself hired, he muttered without even bothering to lift his head. Go where exactly? Wander around midnight with a bunch of bro college dudes. Shanghai is a playground for rich folks, bro. We certainly don't qualify, so if you really need a professional tour guide, just download one of those sketchy companion apps. Those girls will happily call you Big Brother all night long. For a couple $100. Long legs, sweet voices, the whole premium package. A thoughtful hand went up to rub my stubbly chin. You know what they say about a broken clock being right? Twice a day, Lu Chong somehow managed to make a valid point. Which app? Pulling out my cracked phone, I typed it in. A sleek, neon black and pink companion service app, downloaded instantly. My thumb flew straight past all the cheap budget options, speed scrolling past them like annoying pop-up ads on a video. The entire discount tier didn't even get a single glance from me. My sights locked firmly onto the ultimate luxury tier, proudly displayed at the very top of the menu. Ultimate Girlfriend Blind Box Experience. Priced at 888 yuan per hour for a 4-hour block. A full booking came out to a grand total of 3,552 yuan. For a guy currently sitting on 100 million, this felt like finding loose change trapped between couch cushions and casually deciding to blow it on a whim. An intense craving drove me forward. A deep need to experience what high-rolling life felt like for one night. Think of it as some spontaneous, highly effective emotional therapy. Meanwhile, across campus in the dilapidated historical girls' dorm, fate decided it was time to stir up some heavy dramatic tension. Mu Chong sat entirely alone on her hard wooden cot, busily tallying up next week's tight grocery expenses, using a plastic ballpoint pen running dangerously low on ink, while her roommates had all dolled up and gone on dates. Silence filled the quiet space except for the steady buzzing of cicadas outside. Suddenly, a notification for a high-paying premium order lit up her phone screen. After the platform took its cut, she carefully checked the final amount. The total earnings from this 4-hour gig would be precisely enough to cover the expenses for her little sister's upcoming Shanghai study trip next month. Before tapping the details open, it was listed as a couple roleplay experience, even though she had never even been in a relationship. Biting her lip and squeezing her eyes shut, she hit the accept button, immediately shifting into total secret agent mode. She dug out the absolute baggiest gray coat she owned and buried every single outline of her figure beneath a mountain of fabric thick enough to upholster a couch. With a baseball cap and medical mask hiding most of her face, she gave herself a quick once-over in the hallway mirror and nodded, satisfied. She looked like either an A-list celebrity dodging the paparazzi or a sketchy suspect about to pull off a low-stakes felony. Shoving a can of pepper spray deep into her pocket, she prayed fervently that she wouldn't wind up trapped across a table from some greasy, grabby middle-aged weirdo. Staring down her absurd outfit, a thought crossed her mind. I literally look like I'm sneaking out to cheat on someone. And because the universe apparently held a personal grudge against her, the heavens immediately broke open and unleashed an absolute biblical downpour. The exact moment she stepped foot outside, she ended up stranded right beneath the neon glow of an adult novelty shop sign, which was the only lit awning on the entire block, while getting completely soaked to the bone. Freezing rainwater plastered her soaked skirt tightly against her ankles. A deep sense of humiliation seeped into her bones alongside the water. Just then a sleek white Audi A6 came cruising down the wet asphalt, gliding slowly through the street. Zhao Zhishuan, the exact same obnoxious show-off, who had parked his flashy ride by the training field earlier that morning, sat behind the steering wheel puffing on a cigarette and prowling for stranded girls caught in the storm, acting like some kind of budget predator on the hunt. His bright headlights swept directly across Chang'e, causing him to slam on the brakes, even through her mask and cap. He instantly recognized those distinct eyes and that slender neck, along with that unmistakable silhouette. Having memorized every single photo on the campus beauty forum, he knew this was the legendary Ice Queen herself. Rolling down his window, he flashed his absolute best. I'm God's gift to women's smile. Hey, gorgeous. No umbrella? Want to ride somewhere? No thanks. I'm waiting for someone. Turning her back on him completely, she gave him nothing more than the cold shoulder, chilly as an industrial freezer, causing his cocky smile to instantly shatter. However, A quick glance at her glowing phone screen changed everything. Where companion app timer was actively counting down, connecting all the dots in a split second. His facial expression warped into an ugly sneer. Grabbing an umbrella, he shoved the car door open and marched straight up to her. Drop the act right now, Chuna. I saw your phone screen. You're out here, hustling paid companion bookings in the dead of night. Yet you still try to pretend you're above it all. Whatever that guy's paying you, I'll match it and double or triple it. At least I'm young and actually decent looking. Or would you honestly prefer to go hang out with some fat, sweaty uncle instead? Is my Audi seriously not good enough for your high-end premium services? Chuna froze in sheer horror. Realizing this was her worst nightmare come true. Having a classmate spot her out in the open. Her tight grip on the pepper spray canister was so intense that her fingers turned completely ghost white. You've got the wrong person here. Take another step closer, and I swear I'm dialing 911 right now. He chuckled mockingly. Look who's out here hustling themselves. And now you're going to threaten to call the cops. By tomorrow morning, I'm blasting your entire secret side hustle all over the campus forum, so everyone can witness what our school's legendary Ice Queen is secretly up to after dark. And that precisely was my cue to make a legendary entrance. Tearing through the pouring rain came my Panamera, functioning like a stealthy black missile with an exhaust, screaming loud enough to jolt every single fish in the river wide awake. Locking up the ABS, I threw the car into a slick drift, stopping dead just a mere 2 feet away. My chunky performance tires plowed right through a massive puddle, launching a full-on tidal wave of filthy rainwater, dead into Xiao Zixuan's face. I am talking maximum saturation across his chest, neck and mouth. The poor dude literally choked down a mouthful of street sludge mid-sentence. His brain completely blue-screened. He opened his mouth to unleash a tirade of curses, until his eyes caught sight of that expensive Porsche emblem glowing in the dark. His jaw snapped shut so fast I heard his teeth audibly click together. His precious Audi A6 parked right behind him suddenly looked like a pathetic grocery cart, sitting next to an actual spaceship as I rolled my driver's side window halfway down, not even sparing a glance at the dripping, mud-soaked loser standing there. I kept my tinted shades firmly on while driving through a rainy night, utterly impractical for visibility, yet pulling off an absolute flex. Resting one casual hand over the steering wheel, I shifted my focus to Changa, frozen in place beneath that tacky neon adult shop sign, and dropped the line, "Order number 1739, hop in." She blinked in pure disbelief for a second, then recognized me as her expected client, and literally scrambled right into the passenger seat. I floored the gas pedal, a thunderous exhaust note roaring through the stormy air. The sports car plowed right through yet another massive street puddle, zero regrets whatsoever, before vanishing swiftly into the rainy night, leaving Xiao Zixuan stranded out in the heavy downpour, caked completely in mud. As he watched my retreating taillights fade into nothingness, he was definitely second-guessing every single life choice that brought him to this humiliating spot. Ambient heater vents inside the cabin pumped out comforting waves of warm air, while the heavy, insulated doors completely sealed out the raging storm outside. An intense quiet settled in, letting us hear each other's steady breathing. Chango kept her gaze fixed on my side profile, trying to figure out why I looked so familiar to her, yet completely failing to connect the dots between a mysterious, feverish millionaire driving a luxury Porsche and that random kid from a campus nurse's office. After cruising smoothly for 1 block, I reached up and lazily peeled off my totally useless night sunglasses, tossing them casually onto the dashboard. Turning my head toward her, this girl who was currently bundled up in 17 layers of heavy winter disguises, looking like a stuffed human burrito, I hit her with my biggest, most goofy grin possible. "Hey there. Fancy meeting you again, senior." Flashing a massive, playful grin toward the passenger seat, I chuckled. "Look who it is. Fancy meeting you again, senior." Chunga's mental operating system froze up completely for 3 solid seconds. Before the realization finally clicked, I was that exact same kid she had brushed off and given a cold shoulder back at the nurse's office. Back on that morning. The very same guy she had just lectured about faking a heat stroke. Yes, that exact nobody, whom she told to hire a housekeeper straight from an agency, suddenly flushed her entire face into a blazing tomato red, spreading quickly from her neck up to her earlobes. Radiating pure, un filter de volcanic embarrassment. Had this Porsche been equipped with a trapdoor, she would have willingly plunged straight into the sewer, never to show her face again. Panic instantly whispered to her that her secret companion app, Side Hustle, was now officially exposed for the world to see. This girl, who had carefully cultivated a rock-solid reputation as the untouchable ice queen, by effortlessly rejecting lavish bouquets from rich kids without even blinking an eye, was currently trapped inside a junior's Porsche deep in the dead of night, rocking a disguise that practically screamed, "Hey, I am definitely up to no good." So naturally, she resorted to what any rational person would do, frantically clawing at the door handle, like a feral trap cat demanding I pull over immediately. Right on a slick, elevated highway during a raging midnight thunderstorm, I slammed the central lock button with a sharp click and sighed, "Lady, have you seriously been binging way too many K-dramas lately? We are cruising down an elevated expressway amid torrential rain, and you actually want to bail out right now, what? Is your life honestly so miserable that you're looking to hit the factory reset button and respawn as some filthy rich heir next time around? Look, I dropped $3 grand for a chill evening drive, not to play forensic cleanup on the highway pavement." She kept thrashing around furiously against her seat, causing her bulky gray coat to slip halfway off her shoulders, revealing a thin white blouse underneath, which had been thoroughly drenched by the heavy rain. The damp fabric had turned practically translucent, molded like a second skin across her frame, showcasing stunning curves that completely validated the system's wild 96-point rating. The heavy seatbelt cut tightly across her chest, as if it were fighting desperately for its survival. That poor strip of nylon was enduring heavy-duty structural stress it was never engineered to handle. I glanced over for a quick, fleeting second. "Okay, system, you know what? I take it all back. That score was totally fair play." Catching me staring, she yanked her heavy coat back up in a flash, while her voice cracked nervously, "Sumo, just stop the car right now, and I will refund you completely. All $3 grand, down to the very last cent. Just let me out of here, please." But I didn't even flinch. Instead, I casually pulled out my smartphone, opened up the companion app, scrolled straight down to the fine print terms, and began reading aloud to her, with the monotonous drone of a bored teacher during morning homeroom. In the event that the service provider cancels unilaterally, after the order has been officially confirmed, they are legally required to pay the client 3 times the total order value. As a penalty fee, I calculated out loud looking at her, $3,000. Multiplied by 3 comes out to $10,500. Are you seriously down for that? Can you actually afford to pay that, senior? She froze dead in her tracks instantly, looking like someone had slammed the pause button on her. 10,500 when she only had a measly 312 yuan sitting in her bank account. That steep penalty fee wasn't just a fine. It was a direct financial death sentence, leaving the car dead silent, with only the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers cutting through the dark, back and forth while Chang'e sat frozen there, nervously biting her lip. With my vision swimming in crimson, I stubbornly glued my eyes straight to the asphalt ahead. Let's be real, shaking her down for cash wasn't actually my vibe. Keeping her from attempting to low-key yeet herself off a towering highway overpass was the main goal. A little jump scare was basically mandatory for her to stay alive. Following 30 long seconds of heavy silence, she finally broke the ice with a raw, shattered tone. "If you dare spill anything to the squad at school about tonight, tell who." I cut her off mid-sentence, rhythmically tapping the leather steering wheel. "Newsflash, I'm just a freshman. Do you genuinely think I'm out here flexing to people, bragging that I dropped $3.5 grand to rent one of the elite campus goddesses as my temporary girlfriend for the night? Sure, you would take a massive L for that, but my reputation would get completely torched. I've got this long, lucrative, and awesome life waiting for me. There's zero chance I'm ruining my entire future over this one hiccup." Any comeback she had left completely vanished into thin air. It hit her with a painful, blinding clarity that my chaotic, toxic logic was mathematically bulletproof. What kind of wealthy kid would deliberately nuke his own social standing simply to trash hers? Only an absolute clown pulls a stunt that hurts themselves just as badly as the other person. Just cruise through these 4 hours normally. Honestly, I'm just looking for someone to vibe with while I scope out this new apartment. Once the clock runs out, this entire episode gets swallowed up by the plush leather seats of this Porsche. It never happened. Another stretches-long silence followed, filled only by the windshield wipers and her labored, controlled breaths. Then a tiny nod escaped her, easily standing as the most humiliated and defeated gesture in human history. A half hour later, I steered the car into the subterranean VIP garage of Thompson Riviera, hailed as the most expensive high-rise complex in Shanghai. Peering out the passenger window, Chang'e watched her pupils dilate to twice their normal size. Rows of Maybachs, Bentleys, Ferraris, and ultra-rare exotic red beasts whose names she couldn't even begin to guess were neatly lined up across designated luxury parking stalls. We hopped into the private elevator, zooming straight to the penthouse level. And as the doors slid open, her knees genuinely looked ready to buckle. Massive floor-to-ceiling glass panels framed the breathtaking Bund skyline, sparkling brilliantly across the dark Huangpu River, while a hyper-plush wool carpet cushioned our steps, costing more than every single material possession she owned put together. Striding directly into the minimalist kitchen, I yanked the fridge open. Tout à l'heure border. Seriously, system? You hooked me up with a multi-million-dollar luxury pad, yet you couldn't even drop a single bag of chips in here? Guess you aren't that smart after all. Quit freezing up in the doorway like a showroom mannequin, and get inside. Stepping across the threshold timidly, she tiptoed as if treading on hallowed ground, terrified that her damp sneakers might leave a mark on the pristine rug. A sudden gust of central AC hit her hard, prompting her to shed her soaked outerwear, leaving her trapped in a translucent white button-down. Underneath the blinding glare of crystal chandeliers, the damp fabric turned completely see-through, putting every single contour from her delicate collarbones down to her waist on full, unfiltered display, while the subtle outline of something pink peeked through. Scanning her through the system lens, that blindingly pale, jade complexion wasn't even an exaggeration. My gaze lingered on her for half a beat, before looking away. Pulling a fresh towel from the closet, I tossed it over, telling her to take a hot shower. If she caught a bug and tried pinning it on me, I'm not footing the bill because I'm not getting played. She practically bolted straight into the bathroom. I heard the door slam and the lock click like 14 times. Meanwhile, I flopped onto the couch, letting out a yawn. This bathroom, by the way, was bigger than her entire house back home. It featured 3 high-end shower heads she had never laid eyes on, plus French skincare items, still bearing their factory seals, the whole 9 yards. She was locked in there for 40 minutes. 40. My mind wandered, wondering if she had slipped out through a window or simply dissolved down the drain. Right then, the bathroom door cracked open about 2 inches. A single damp eyeball peeked out, calling my name softly. Her voice was fainter than a sleepy mosquito. All my clothes are soaked through, and I can't wear any of them. So could you grab me something? Standing up, I grabbed a brand new men's dress shirt from the closet, literally the only thing available, and shoved it through the crack in the door. This is all there is, so you'll have to make it work. Internally, I rolled my eyes so hard, I nearly detached a retina. Sure, she has a pretty face, but who takes 40 minutes just to shower? I offered her a towel earlier. Did she think I was going to unwrap her and eat her? While she was hiding out, I dialed up a luxury boutique, rattled off the address, and instructed them to bring over a complete women's outfit. You guys can figure out the size yourselves. 30 minutes passed, and 5 minutes later Chang'e finally emerged. That men's shirt barely reached the middle of her thighs. The chest area was under such intense structural pressure that those buttons truly deserved a Medal of Honor. Every single breath she took felt like a physics experiment, too impossibly long. Snow-white legs swung back and forth, just below the shirt hem. The system mentioned her skin was blindingly white, and I was starting to think it was being conservative. Glancing over again, I noticed those buttons were enduring stress levels they were never engineered to handle. The atmosphere was getting interesting, with the air in the room starting to shift toward hazardous territory. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, saved right in the nick of time by luxury fashion. 2 boutique assistants in tailored black suits stood outside the doorway, holding 6 golden designer shopping bags. They handed me a handwritten inventory list, and I signed it with a small bow without even reading. Chang'e sat quietly at the dining table, unable to stop herself from peeking at those bags. The price tag sticking out of the top bag clearly read 68,000. Watching her count the zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4. Her hands began to tremble noticeably as she tried doing the mental math. Multiply 68 grand by those half-dozen bags, and you've got 1 coat's total. Right before her overloaded brain could completely glitch out, she consciously decided to halt all math. She just gave up right before a total system crash. Right on the tabletop in front of her, I dropped the heavy shopping bags. Go change. Walking back onto campus wearing my oversized shirt is simply not an option for you. The entire student forum would honestly break the internet. With trembling lips, she stared down at the luxury bags. These items cost way too much. Melting right back into the plush cushions of the sofa, I didn't even bother lifting my head. Keep dragging your feet like this and you'll need to start stressing out. Stress over whether you'll even make it. Back to school tomorrow on your own 2 feet at all. At all. Chanda finally shuffled out from the hallway of the bedroom. Fully styled in the fresh drip, a cream-colored trench coat, a smooth silk blouse underneath, and matching mini leather boots. From some high-end brand she couldn't even pronounce. The glow-up was absolutely wild. She transformed instantly from a broke cafeteria dishwasher into a ruthless corporate CEO who fires people before sipping her morning coffee. That system rating of a 98 face score, alongside a 96 body score, proved to be 100% valid. This gorgeous woman had basically been locked in side rags, trapped like a mythical dragon stuffed inside a cardboard box. Take off the constraints, and she turned into an absolute weapon. While I called out from the couch, "At least you don't look like you're sneaking around for some shady hookup anymore." The rehearsed thank you she had prepared instantly died right in her throat. "You're welcome." Standing awkwardly in the center of the living room, she stole a nervous glance at her companion app countdown timer. Out of the 4 hours I had already paid for, 3 had already slipped away. An entire hour got wasted stuck in highway traffic amidst a heavy thunderstorm. Another hour and a half went toward her taking a shower, blow-drying her hair, while the remaining 30 minutes were burned figuring out how to put on clothes. That cost more than her total yearly earnings. She hadn't even performed a single second of actual companion duties. Not a speck of small talk had been made. She basically just showed up, splashed my imported French shampoo everywhere, modeled high-end designer gear for literally nobody, and called that an entire shift. Guilt slammed into her like a semi-truck. She felt like a total scammer who accidentally pulled off a con without even trying. Staring intensely at the floor, she forced the words out, as if she were gingerly diffusing a bomb. "Tomorrow morning, I can show you around Shanghai to make up for tonight's mess. Totally free of charge." Wandering around shopping alone tomorrow was my original plan anyway, but having a free tour guide, and an SSS Tier 1 at that, dropped right in my lap. Only an absolute fool would say no. "Sure, let's do 10 a.m. sharp." She managed to relax for exactly 1 second, before freezing right back up. "But I do have one condition. Not a single soul at school can ever find out about us." I suddenly burst out laughing. "What? Are we living a hush-hush double life? Like a secret sugar daddy setup? Or some forbidden underground romance? Look, I just hired a tour guide. Yet you're out here acting like we're trading classified spy secrets." Her mouth opened, but not a single sound came out. Still, I kept right on talking with total ease. "If some scandalous drama is what you're genuinely low-key craving, just remember the campus dorm gates are bolted shut by now anyway. The rain is bucketing down outside. A massive king-size bed sits right here in this master suite for us to share." She gasped softly and stumbled backward, acting like I had just pulled a live grenade pin. Her arms crossed tightly over her chest, locking into a full defensive stance while I was just messing around. My bank account isn't desperate enough to pull that move. Plenty of willing volunteers were out there in the real world, such as that Porsche salesgirl. Han Shu Yao practically handed me an all-access VIP membership card, delivering herself on a silver platter. A swift gesture directed her down the hallway. "Guest room is on the left side. Go hit the sack," before she bolted away like a spooked rabbit. The door lock clicked shut about 7 distinct times. I sprawled right out across the master mattress, just as a flashing system notification popped up. "Mu Chang'e development progress, 5%? Wait, what the heck? I didn't even lay a finger on her tonight. How on earth did the meter go up with Han Xiao Yao?" At least I had some actual hands-on interaction with the other girl, and that only pushed me to a 10% bump. Does this walking ice queen possess some secret, hidden self-conquest perk? Like, you show her the bare minimum of human decency, and she starts building her own progress bar in her head. Whatever, I'm too tired to care. Analyzing this system's grading rubric was way past my bedtime, pulling the luxury silk blanket right over my face. I was sawing logs within 30 seconds flat. The next morning rolled around on Saturday at 10 a.m. Awakening naturally, I gave my banking app a quick check. Another 100 million had quietly dropped overnight. This system essentially operated like a personal ATM that genuinely loved me. Chang'e was already up, dressed, and planted on the living room sofa, looking noticeably less hostile than she had yesterday. The glacial permafrost was finally starting to thaw. Guiding her down into the underground garage, I clicked the fob to fire up the red 911. Time to take this other sleek toy out for a spin. As she bent down to slide into the low-slung sports car, her loose collar shifted dramatically, granting me a rather generous preview of the scenery below. Leaning casually against the driver's side door frame, I soaked in the view, like an absolute gentleman standing at a scenic overlook, completely unbothered. Zero shame involved. Squeezing herself tightly into the passenger seat, she instantly realized this whip wasn't engineered for ergonomics. The interior of a 911 was cramped tighter than a budget airline seat. Her long legs had literally nowhere to stretch out, jamming her knees squarely against the glove compartment, like packed sardines. When I punched it onto the highway, the sudden G-force slammed her back into the bucket seat with such force that her frosty poker face finally cracked under pressure. Her lips started twitching completely out of control. I'm honestly convinced she believed I picked this specific car purely to torture her. We finally pulled up to Plaza 66, Shanghai's ultimate temple of high-end luxury. Strolling side by side, our visual contrast looked hilariously absurd. She was draped in a 68,000 yuan designer trench coat, radiating peak fortune 500 CEO energy. Meanwhile, I rolled up rocking my old graphic tee, beat-up gym shorts, and disintegrating mesh sneakers. Catching my own reflection in the storefront glass, I looked like a dead-broke college kid, living large off a wealthy sugar mama. Some men's clothes should have honestly been added to last night's order too. Such a major rookie mistake. Stepping into a high-end designer boutique for guys happened right after. My outfit caught the sales clerk's eye, and her initial vibe instantly flatlined. Spotting Changa trailing right behind me changed everything though. Rocking a designer coat and pricey boots, she radiated pure CEO energy, prompting a theatrical 180 in the clerk's facial expressions. A professional 8-2 smile popped up instantly. Hot tea materialized out of thin air, shining Changa as a loaded corporate mogul, and writing me off as her kept boy toy, which, to be completely real, was a totally fair call given the visual context. Diving headfirst into tour guide mode followed next, showcasing Changa's genuine dedication. Clothing racks became her playground as she started darting between them, pulling vibrant colors and matching fabrics together. Complete outfits were built like she was styling a high-fashion magazine cover. Her very first pick got me stepping out of the fitting room, wearing a sharp black shirt paired with dark gray trousers that draped flawlessly. Some kind of magic happened with that combination. Natural sharp and angular features define my face already, and having 200 million sitting in the bank now pumps me full of effortless confidence. Even the sales clerk, accustomed to thousands of shoppers, actually blushed. Gazing fixedly at me was Changa too. Her lips, usually sealed tight, hung slightly open in shock. One clear thought bounced around inside her head, echoing loudly through her expression. This guy cleans up dangerously well. My card was swiped right then, before instructing the salesgirl to bag every single color variant in my size. Just because, though that was only the warm-up act, sweeping through that mall for the next 2 hours felt like a Category 5 financial hurricane. Every luxury counter took a massive hit. Casual wear, limited edition watches, and rare items piled up. Cufflinks and leather shoes followed suit. Buying everything caught my eye became the rule. Not checking a single price tag caught Changa's attention fast, steering us next into a massive women's haute couture store happened immediately after. Several designer outfits were pointed out by my hand, alongside a whole bunch of intimate apparel in different sizes. Protests shot up as Changa's hands flew into the air. The assumption that more items were being bought for her hit hard. Frantic waving accompanied her words, insisting with absolute firmness that extra clothes were unneeded. Turning around with my most innocent facial expression deployed. Oh, chill out, senior. These aren't for you since they're meant for the guest room closet. You know. Just backups for other girls destined to be brought home later. Solid ice instantly formed in the store's atmosphere. Mid-fold, the sales clerk flinched visibly, ducking her head down low, while muffled giggles shook her entire frame. Frozen midair like a glitching video, where Changa's waving arms locked in place. Color drained and rushed back to her face so intensely fast. Spontaneous combustion looked like a real possibility. Lowering her hands down at a glacial pace happened next, making it obvious how hard her toes were curling inside her boots. Every single step felt like walking on tiny needles. Deep inside her mind, a single word played on an endless loop. Scumbag, yet despite knowing with absolute certainty that absolutely nothing existed between the two of us, the mere mention of other girls still gave her chest this weirdly tight sensation. An annoying and inexplicable, sour little feeling was creeping through her like a slow-acting poison. 10 minutes later, all the shopping bags were packed. Right then she gave my sleeve a shy little tug. Sumo, can you hang on for me for a sec? There's a cheaper underwear shop just around the corner. And I totally need to grab something. I stared at her in confusion. They literally sell that stuff all over this mall. What is the point of tracking down a specific cheap spot? Her face flushed to the exact shade of a ripe tomato. She bit down on her lower lip until it turned pure white. Following a painfully awkward silence, she forced out a confession through tightly clenched teeth. Last night, those boutique people only sent standard sizes over, calculated from some average girl's body stats, including the underwear. But in my case, it is way too small. I tried my best to tough it out, but after dragging myself around all morning, it genuinely hurts like crazy. My gaze dropped to the silk blouse buttons, which were currently fighting a losing battle against physics. And the truth finally hit me as to why. She had been walking with such a stiff posture all morning. Her upper body rigidly locked like a soldier on parade. The clothes were not undersized at all. She was just super blessed. I was chilling on the boutique's plush velvet sofa, gaming on my phone, while Changa went off to track down some undergarments. She had spent 2 solid hours styling me like a pro, acting just like a high-end fashion consultant. Yet the moment she had to shop for herself instead, she turned into an anxious hot mess and insisted on hunting down the absolute cheapest option. I had to pull my foot down right there. My time is way too valuable for her to waste on a few grand. That threat finally did the trick. She scurried into the mysterious lingerie section, looking like a frightened mouse walking into a church. She asked the sales clerk to fetch the cheapest standard set in a slightly larger size. The sales assistant gave her a knowing smirk and returned instead with a simple black lace piece while Changa was doing quick mental math. Basic set is probably a couple $100 tops. I can easily cover this with my companion app earnings. Then she flipped over the price tag. 4,200 yuan for a single set of underwear. The absolute budget choice in this establishment cost more than an entire month of her cafeteria salary. She could have bought a whole market full of raw fabric for that kind of money. Though the absolute disaster was still waiting to happen, she retreated into the fitting room and attempted to try on this high-tech fashion nightmare. It featured one of those full-length back zippers, evidently engineered by someone who low-key hates women. Reaching around behind her back, she gave it a yank only for the zipper to get completely stuck, jammed dead in the mesh lining, halfway up her spine, and absolutely refused to budge either way. Stretching routines took up 5 full minutes of her time, as she desperately contorted her arms behind her back, pushing her muscles right to the verge of cramping. Facing the mirror with zero success, she stared at her reflection, noticing her face was flushed bright red, while trapped in a half-zip black lace outfit, with vast stretches of pale skin completely exposed, and her hands pinned behind her like a helpless hostage. She thought, if a single soul catches me like this, my Ice Queen reputation is totally cooked today, and not just canceled. It's getting torched and tossed straight into the Huangpu River. Budging it upward or downward proved completely impossible, having already dismissed the sales associate earlier, because having someone hovering nearby gave her major secondhand cringe. She couldn't force it either, lest she rip 4,200 yuan worth of delicate fabric, pressing her damp forehead against the chilling partition. A solitary tear slipped from her eye before she pinged me a text saying my game was finally over. Strolling casually toward the fitting room zone, I watched the velvet curtain part by barely a sliver, leaving just enough space for one panicked eyeball to peer out. A choked, tear-drenched whisper drifted through the gap. "Help me out, please." This girl low-key possesses a supernatural radar for absolute disasters. She's practically a walking lightning rod for awkward moments, making sure the coast was completely clear around me. I slipped right past the curtain barrier, clutching her coat tightly against her chest. With her back turned to me, I looked down at the wardrobe crime scene. A tiny zipper, no bigger than a fingernail, had chomped down on the mesh lining and locked in place, with the stubborn tenacity of a pit bull. 4,000 yuan for this level of shoddy build quality. A 10 yuan street market bralette has way better engineering. If some couple got a little too wild and yanked this too hard, it'd easily turn into a single-use disposable item. pinching the minuscule metal pull tab between two fingers. My fingertips unfortunately brushed right against the warm skin of her lower back, causing her to twitch violently as if hit by a live wire. "Senior, could you please chill out and stop shaking? Because if you keep vibrating like a phone and I snap this zipper, we're going to have to summon the salesgirl with a pair of shears. And that would become a legendary tale passed down through generations." She froze instantly, holding her breath altogether, turning straight into a stone statue, using one hand to tease the mesh threads free, while bracing the base of the zipper securely with my other hand. I pinpointed the exact snag spot and gave it one decisive yank. Edipe. The stubborn zipper finally broke loose, though I applied way too much force, and the sudden loss of resistance threw her totally off balance, instinctively spinning around in a frantic bid to catch herself, with her hands flying back up to cover her chest, but not before a full panoramic view was briefly and gloriously put on display, hovering at a distance of barely 10 centimeters from my face. I scrambled backward in such a massive rush that I slammed hard into the doorframe. The oxygen inside that cramped booth felt thick as solid concrete, leaving us both clearly hearing our own heartbeats, thumping away like dueling drums. Right then, the salesgirl's heels clicked loudly on the floor again, as her sweet yet probing voice filtered right through the curtain fabric. "How is everything fitting over there, honey? Is that size treating you right? Because if I walked out right now, even a plunge into the Huangpu River would fail to wash this mess clean." Changa's shoulder felt the heavy pressure on my hand as she was shoved further inside the fitting room, and the curtain was yanked shut in a swift motion. The two of us were crammed together within an enclosure built strictly for one person. A deep, fiery blush swept across Changa's face, making her practically glow amidst the dim shadows. Suppressing a loud shriek, she bit down hard on her lip. So wildly was her heart hammering away that the vibration bled right through the heavy air. Suddenly, a system ping rang out. Manga development progress 10% hidden. Information unlocked. This marks the target's very first time engaging in physical contact with a young male. Throughout her life, with her current mental state in absolute chaos, full of shame and a tiny speck of pride. "Are you dead-ass, system?" I almost choked right there. One of the top 4 campus beauties, boasting a 98 face and a 96 body, at 20 years old has never even held a guy's hand. Yet upon reflection, it made total sense. Juggling 3 jobs while paying off student loans and looking after her sister, when on earth would she find time for romance? Dating is a high-maintenance hobby demanding both cash and time, 2 resources she possesses 0 of. Hold on though, a tiny bit of pride? What is there even to be proud of? While stuck in a dressing room with your bra acting up, the female mind is honestly a whole vibe of mystery. 10 minutes later, we emerged consecutively, one after another. Standing a short distance away, the sales clerk wore a grin so massive her face looked ready to split. Both of us acted like absolutely nothing unusual had transpired. Academy Award-winning performances were delivered by both sides. Payment was made, and we strolled side by side down the corridor, though leaving enough empty space between us to park a bicycle. Changa eventually halted right behind me. "Sumo, regarding these clothes, installments from my part-time earnings will cover the repayment." Without even turning around, I took a casual sip of my iced Americano through the straw and kept walking with an effortless new phone who dis swagger. "Sure thing, senior, take all the time you need. Go ahead. The interest rate will be the central bank's base rate." Slapped with a cool 10% markup, causing the wave of gratitude. She'd been brewing to choke and die a miserable death in her throat. Her gaze locked onto the back of my head, as if she were staring down a cartoon supervillain. Meanwhile, down on the ground floor, our campus queen Linyu lounged at an ultra-aesthetic dessert spot, wasting 20 minutes, photographing a slice of tiramisu that was melting into soup. She was obsessing over capturing the ideal angle to boost her social media grid, when suddenly 2 figures drifted straight through her camera frame. An immediate urge to crop them out crossed her mind, until she zoomed in closely on the female companion, Manga, the very same girl scrubbing dishes in the cafeteria, the one who couldn't even drop cash on decent lipstick. Yet right now, she was draped in a brand-new designer trench coat, a silk blouse, and red-bottom leather boots, wearing a head-to-toe luxury fit worth upwards of 100,000 yuan, as she trailed behind a tall figure, with his gaze deliberately averted and sharp clothes fitting him well. Recognition completely eluded Lin Yu. Only a vague, out-of-focus silhouette met her eyes. Yet her inner gossip radar was going off the charts. Between the physical space separating them and Changa's super awkward body language, alongside the heavy shopping bags she hauled around, while I casually strolled up front sipping my coffee, Lin Jiao jumped to a conclusion in a heartbeat. Total sugar baby behavior was her immediate verdict as she glanced down at her own fit, rocking a knockoff jacket scored on sale for 790 yuan. The exact piece she threw on whenever she wanted to flex, next to whatever designer gear Changa was sporting. She honestly looked like she had just dumpster dived at a clearance bin. Why is this even happening? She fumed silently. My face is just as pretty and right up there too. Sure, the body department might be a different story, since Changa was basically playing live on cheat codes. But how does she suddenly get plucked straight out of bro culture and launched into absolute luxury? Her sweet tiramisu had completely melted into a totally unrecognizable brown puddle, acting as a spot-on metaphor for her current self-esteem. At that moment, she almost blasted those photos all over the school forum, paired with a brutally savage caption. 3 separate viral clickbait headlines were already loaded in her drafts, before her remaining brain cells finally intervened, ruining Changa's reputation completely. Was never going to make that mystery sugar daddy look her way. Setting fire to someone else's house doesn't magically build yours. Opting for a sneakier route instead, she tucked the pictures safely inside a secret password-protected album, treating them like an insurance policy and a nuclear option saved for a rainy day. Half an hour later, we found ourselves back down in the dim underground garage. Changa finally sank into the passenger seat of the 911, taking up space, amidst an expensive sea of shopping bags, worth a solid down payment on a prime Shanghai apartment, muttering under her breath, sumo. Do rich folks genuinely look at money like it's absolute monopoly paper? Everything you dropped this morning would literally take me 2 straight years of grinding 3 jobs, without ever stopping to eat or sleep. Shifting the car smoothly into drive, I rolled out of the parking stall, without even glancing up to spare a look. Well, seeing is how you know I'm feeling generous. Perhaps you ought to give some serious thought to that life assistant gig I pitched yesterday, complete with room and board and 10,000 a month. That's way lower risk than throwing on a trench coat, disguised to meet up with total strangers at midnight. Don't you think so? Dead silence filled the cabin, broken only by the deep 911 exhaust, rumbling and echoing against the concrete pillars. This time around, she didn't shut me down instantly, the way she had back in the nurse's office, turning her head to stare out the side window. At the blur of passing scenery, she finally spoke, in a tone barely louder than a breath. Fine, let me think about it. Tightening my grip on the steering wheel, I let a sly smirk tug at the corner of my lips. Major progress right there, even though I wasn't physically present for what happened next. Based on how things played out afterward, I can practically picture the whole scene vividly. Pushing open her dorm room door at exactly 1:30. On a Saturday afternoon, Changa fully expected to find an empty room, operating under the assumption everyone was out. She quickly realized she was dead wrong, as 3 roommates and 3 pairs of intense eyes greeted her. Every single gaze locked right onto her like heat-seeking missiles. 2 seconds of absolute silence dragged on. Apparently, though, those brief moments felt way longer than the 5 minutes she spent trapped inside that zipper. Slamming her phone down from the top bunk, Zhongling, the athletic one, suddenly made a loud thud and half launched herself over the safety railing, like a total human catapult, shouting, Changa, you ghosted us and didn't come home last night. Changa instantly activated her Ice Queen protocol, keeping her face completely neutral and her voice calm, having rehearsed her alibi the entire drive back home. The rain was too heavy, so she sat at McDonald's all night. Zhongling's eyes popped wide open in disbelief. You seriously hung out at McDonald's dressed like that? Were you crushing Big Macs or low-key filming a commercial? Right then, Fong Jinx, who was sitting there with a face mask half peeled off and looking like a sketchy green and white zombie, rushed over and flipped the tag inside Changa's coat sleeve, staring intensely at the label for 3 solid seconds. She let her jaw drop completely, letting facial serum start dripping off her chin, without even realizing it, and whispered this brand. My mom actually tried on this exact coat last month. The price tag was 68K, so she pretended to take a fake call, and we bolted out of the store. Hearing that 68,000 price tag, Zhongling vaulted off the top bunk with the explosive leg power of someone who has grinded out competitive badminton for years, circling Changa like a detective at a crime scene, and inspecting every detail. These shoes are totally new. Just look at this leather and this sole. Even this blouse feels sketchy too. Way too smooth, alright. Ice Queen, you better start confessing. Where were you actually last night? Changa backed up half a step, stammering, "A friend, just let me borrow these clothes. I'm gonna return them." Placing her hands firmly on her hips, Zhongling fired back. "What kind of friend casually loans out 68,000 yuan worth of outfits? Is your secret bestie Jack Ma's actual daughter or something?" Fong Jinx aggressively nodded along from the side, adding, "If you claimed you just borrowed a Uniqlo jacket, maybe I'd buy it, but if you put a single scuff on this coat, you couldn't afford to pay for it in a lifetime." Changa's elaborate lies were collapsing, much faster than a house of cards in a tornado. Sensing victory, Zhongling smelled blood and leaned in closely with the sly grin of a veteran gossip hunter. "Did you finally unlock some new vibes last night, Did somebody open your eyes to entirely new experiences? Was he totally gorgeous, or at least super impressive? Come on, we're basically sisters here. You can totally tell us. We'll take it to the grave." Fong Jinx ripped off the rest of her drying face mask and jumped straight into the huddle, their three heads almost touching. "Yeah, are you dating someone? What's the big secret? Just spill the tea already." Retreating backward on her bed, Changa turned bright red like a fire truck, frantically waving her hands around, as if she were directing emergency highway traffic, and stuttered, "No, nothing actually happened. Stop guessing already. There was no eye-opening moment of any kind." Oh. Listen to her stuttering while claiming nothing happened. Changa's bed was instantly claimed by Zhongling, as if she were setting up a base camp there. With that, the interrogation officially kicked off. To hype things up, Fong Jinx dropped a bombshell of her own. "Look, my ex stood at 6'2" with absolute killer abs. Yet he still couldn't even push past 30 minutes. Warm-up included, so I ghosted him right then and there." Zhongling burst out laughing hysterically. Totally, Jinx's ex is a major red flag for humanity. "So spill the tea, you ghosted all morning too. Don't even try saying you were stuck in the sheets." Changa listened as her roommates floored the gas pedal straight into 0 to 60 in decency mode, leaving her practically short-circuiting. These girls looked like total angels in public, but behind closed doors, they sped like street racers. Smashing her pillow straight over her face, she groaned, "Stop grilling me. Nothing happened. You absolute creeps, then." Since her mouth apparently came without an emergency brake. "He's just a junior and his family is super loaded. It was pouring rain and I couldn't commute back, so I crashed in his guest suite." That is it, the second those words slipped out. She desperately wanted to take them back. Zhongling's gossip radar instantly went nuclear. "A junior? Since when is that a thing? How come we had no clue his family was loaded? You stayed over at his place, rocking his gifted clothes, and expect us to buy that nothing happened." Fong Jinx dropped the final blow. "A guy and a girl locked up alone, all night long with your looks, and nothing went down? Changa, do you even expect us to buy that?" Every single word she spoke dug her deeper into a hole. Opting for total silence, she left room for the fourth roommate, Subangxia, who had been quietly posted up on her own bed the whole time, mending a battered jacket using needle and thread. She hadn't piped up even once, giving Changa just a single glance. She noticed what everyone else completely missed. Beneath those high-end designer threads, Changa's eyes were completely heavy with fatigue, lacking the smug, satisfied glow of a girl living the sugar baby dream. It was a completely different vibe. Banksia stood up, poured a cup of hot water, and set it down gently on Changa's desk. Spotting that cup made Changa's throat tighten up. She was painfully aware that Banksia's background was even tougher than her own. Standing right there in a 68,000 yuan designer coat, facing a girl stitching up a 30 yuan thrifted jacket, felt like the most low-key flex imaginable. Meanwhile, Zhongling possessed zero emotional intelligence, running purely on a high-octane gossip rush. She grabbed Changa and hauled her back toward the bed. "Time to run an inspection on these clothes for evidence." "Yeah, body check incoming." Blocking the doorway stood Fong Jinx, leaving Changa trapped between the desk and the cabinet. Zhongling's badminton-trained grip was terrifyingly ironclad. "Stop it already, Ling. Just let me verify if you swapped out what's underneath. Then I'll finally know the truth." As they wrestled across the bed, Fong Jinx clapped and howled with laughter, while facial mask flakes drifted off like confetti. Banksia remained parked on her bed, clutching her needle. watching this entire circus unfold with quiet resignation. The coat was yanked open halfway down. A loose twist gave way at the silk collar. Flailing wildly, Changa slammed her elbow right into a cabinet handle. A sharp jolt of agony caused her to twist aside, making the second button of her blouse pop off instantly, flying forward like a tiny, high-speed projectile while Zhongling had been laughing. All amusement vanished from her face. Her gaze locked dead onto the exposed skin beneath Changa's collarbone. Two angry red marks stood out, remarkably deep and clear, stretching downward from just above her chest, before vanishing beneath the dark fabric. Vivid crimson lines contrasted sharply against impossibly pale skin. Every single sound in the room died out completely. Zhongling let go of Fong Jin as her smile vanished into thin air. Banksy's sewing needle accidentally jabbed deep into her own finger. A tiny bead of bright red blood swelled on her fingertip. She didn't even react, as all three stared in horror at those marks. Following their lead, Changa glanced down, and all the color drained instantly from her face. She yanked everything back together in a panic, wrapping her coat around herself tightly like a protective suit of armor. Too late. Zhongling's lips were already trembling visibly. Her voice dropped to a small, ultra-careful tone, as if she were handling fragile glass. Changa, did he actually do this to you? Changa's brain went totally blank for a split second. Then she caught sight of their genuinely terrified expressions, looking ready to go to war, and finally realized what they were assuming. You guys totally have it wrong. It's just pressure marks from my underwear. The sizing was way too small. Zhongling searched her eyes with a raw, intense wave of concern. Changa, look at me and tell the absolute truth. If something messed up happened to you, if someone actually hurt you, we're going straight to the cops together right now. Fong Jin's eyes were already flushed bright red. Did some creep force you? Don't be scared to speak up. My dad literally knows people in high places. Changa stared at the three, faces overflowing with genuine anxiety, and felt a sharp, heavy ache blooming in her chest. She shook her head back and forth as hard as she could. I'm telling you, it's literally just from the underwear being too tight. I wore that thing all morning, and it just left some friction marks. That's literally it. What on earth are you guys even picturing right now? Zhongling locked eyes with her in silence for several long seconds. Then why didn't you just change into something else? That simple question hit Changa like a massive brick wall, because the actual, unvarnished truth was that she completely forgot to send her correct measurements to the boutique. Wore the wrong fit all night in my penthouse. Got the zipper totally jammed on the replacement pair. Stuck inside a cramped little fitting room, and had to force me to come in and physically pry the damn thing loose with my own hands, while we were pressed tightly together, inside a tight space no bigger than a phone booth. If she dared to utter even a single syllable of that story, this entire dorm room would blow up into absolute chaos. That wouldn't quiet down until graduation day. It was getting late, so I honestly just didn't bother changing. Zhongling's eyebrows twisted together into a tight pretzel knot. So let me get this straight, okay? You spent the entire night crashing at some rich junior's house. You strolled back home wearing his pricey 68,000 yuan designer clothes. And you've got these sketchy marks all over your chest. She paused dramatically, and you expect me to believe that it's just because your underwear was too tight? Now, I wasn't physically standing in that dorm room, but judging by the vibe, a full-blown, premium drama series was definitely unfolding right there. Not a single word of her alibi bought Chunga's roommates. That story was getting zero traction with them, dropping the comedy act entirely. Zhongling, the badminton girl, finally put on her serious face. Leaning in close, she gripped the bedsheet tight. Changa, I'm not trying to gossip. Shanghai is a low-key dangerous city, and those rich playboys out there are mostly major trash if you're ever hurting for cash. The four of us can totally pool some bread together, since you won't even buy yourself a decent bottle of shampoo. Please don't go doing something unhinged, just because you're totally broke. Behind her, Fong Jinx was nodding along like a bobblehead. Underneath her blanket, Changa completely buried herself, like a literal human burrito, and let out a muffled growl from inside her cotton fortress. Zhongling, if you utter one more syllable, I'm filing for a room transfer tomorrow morning. Instantly, that threat shut everyone up. Zhongling quickly pretended to zip her lips. She knew Changa way too well by now, realizing this girl gave off soft vibes on the surface, while being made of pure steel underneath. Push her too hard, and she'll genuinely pack her bags and ghost. Exchanging a heavily loaded look, the two gossip queens communicated silently. 1,000 unspoken words were practically bouncing right between their eyeballs. Completely unnoticed by anyone in the room, the dorm door had warped badly from years of humidity, leaving a 2-finger-wide gap where the hinge was broken. Right on the other side of that crack, a girl named Jo Ji-ching had been standing with her ear glued straight to the rusty wooden frame. Returning from doing her laundry, she'd caught voices drifting through the gap, causing her feet to slow down completely on their own. During a solid few minutes of premium eavesdropping, she managed to scoop up every juicy keyword: 68,000 yuan designer clothes, the wrong underwear size, and red marks left by a dude at lightning speed. Her brain stitched all those random fragments into a full-blown scandal. Moving like a ninja, she tiptoed away like a mouse robbing a cheese factory, holding her breath the entire time, until she was safely back in her own space. Locking the door behind her, she tossed down her laundry basket and collapsed into her chair, bursting with the barely contained excitement of someone who had just struck gold. You see, Jo Ji-ching had some serious history here. She and Zhao Zixuan, that exact Audi A6 clown I'd splashed with muddy puddle water last night, happened to be childhood sweethearts. Throughout all of high school, they'd been sneaking off to movies and karaoke sessions together, fully planning to take their relationship public once they hit college. The exact second Zhao Zixuan stepped on a campus and caught sight of the 4 campus beauties rankings, though, his loyalty evaporated like morning dew. Just last week, he had actually ordered Jo Ji-ching to keep her distance from him at school and pretend they were nothing more than ordinary classmates. Naturally, she was furious, but now she was locked and loaded with major ammo. Pulling up Zhao Zixuan's chat log, she began typing furiously. The Ice Queen Muchanga didn't even come home last night. Stepping back into view-rocking luxury threads totaling over 100K grandly. Suspicious bruises from some unknown dude dotted her skin. Reading through it twice made her cringe at how super dramatic she sounded. Wiping the slate totally clean, she began meticulously engineering the ultimate text message, designed specifically to make Zhao Zixuan realize his precious campus queen had lost her pristine vibe and compel him to come crawling straight back to her. Meanwhile, back inside Changa's dim dorm room, Su Bangxia, the low-key 4th roommate, who had been quietly stitching away at her cheap 30 yuan thrift store jacket this entire time, abruptly rose without uttering a single word toward her desk. She moved, prying open a drawer filled with budget-friendly skincare essentials, and fished out a tiny flat container. She set it down softly upon the wrinkled bed sheets, right beside Changa's pillow, revealing a modest 9 yuan 90 tube of basic aloe vera gel, peeking cautiously through a narrow slit in her heavy blanket. Changa recognized the item instantly. An intense pang gripped her chest like a heavy fist, giving it a brutal squeeze. Leaning down close to the blanket, opening Bangxia whispered softly, keeping her voice low enough that only the two of them could tune in. Slather this on when you hop in the shower tonight. Aloe is low-key the fastest fix for fading those red marks. She then retreated back to her corner, without waiting for any acknowledgement. Zero drama and zero interrogation. Just pure, unbothered kindness, coming from a girl whose own financial struggles were way worse. Shifting the spotlight back over to my side of the map, I was rolling my red 911 right into the Thompson Riviera garage, dripping in my fresh designer drip, feeling completely unstoppable. Well, 200 million bucks rich, to be exact, since another massive 100 mil deposit had just hit my balance. While I was knocked out, sleeping, riding the private elevator up, I shoved open the door to my high-rise penthouse, with a crisp air conditioning welcomed me home, like an oldie but goodie bestie. Dropping my car keys on the foyer table, I kicked off into my Cloudsoft house shoes and glided into the sprawling living room. That was when a weird detail caught my eye. Resting on the glass coffee table lay a crisp white towel, the exact same one I tossed at Changa last night, folded into an immaculate geometric rectangle, so precise it looked military grade. Tucked right beside it was a tiny square note ripped from a pad. Picking it up, I scanned the neat, yet slightly jittery handwriting, revealing shaky nerves underneath. The towel and shirt are totally clean and dry now. Thanks so much for everything yesterday, M.O. Staring down at that little note for a solid few seconds, I couldn't help smirking broadly. This girl deadass washed, dried and folded my stuff before ghosting. She was totally speedrunning the life assistant audition process, without even realizing she was playing the game. Crumpling the paper into a tight sphere, with a quick flick of my wrist, I sent it flying across the room, straight into the smart trash can for a clean swish. Absolute nothing but net perfection. The exact millisecond that paper ball hit the bottom ding. A system notification flashed across my field of vision target locked. Manga has spontaneously demonstrated domestic care behavior. This is flagged by the system. Matching. The early rollout of a hidden trait in the target. Boom. Development progress just shot up by 5%. I was frozen in place, with a trio of massive question marks hovering over my head. 5% for folding a towel? Let me break this down. Over in the fitting room earlier today, I literally stepped into a tight space, fumbled with her back zipper using my bare hands, and came face to face with her entire anatomy from 10 centimeters away, and that scored me some progress. Yet folding a towel alongside writing a little thank you note also nets me another 5%. Han Xiao Yao from the Porsche dealership, where I actually had hands-on contact, is only sitting at 10%, whereas Chang'e, whom I've barely even brushed past, is already at 15% and still climbing. Her progress bar was surging forward on its own, as if it had a motor strapped to it. I threw my weight onto the leather couch, a sprawling piece big enough to sleep 3 people, and just lay there staring blankly at the ceiling. The scoring algorithm of this system was straight up unhinged. Was it calculating based on physical contact, emotional bonds, or towel folding techniques? Thinking back to the fitting room incident, the system noted her emotions held a tiny trace of pride, and now she's voluntarily doing domestic chores and reaping progress points from it. Add all that up alongside her hidden attribute, which was still locked behind a wall of question marks, and I was finally starting to see the pattern. Chang'e's secret shortcut wasn't romance or physical stuff at all. She was the service-oriented type. Take care of her, let her take care of you. And she basically conquers herself from the inside out. A self-attacking fortress driven purely by kindness. Then again, whatever. I rolled over on the couch and yawned, with a fresh 100 million dropping into my account. Every single day, why would I waste time reverse engineering a woman's emotional architecture like some lab rat? She was already caught in my orbit, given her financial situation. She couldn't escape my gravitational pull, even if she tried. I was way too busy, pondering what kind of luxury toy to cop for myself. Tomorrow when my phone suddenly buzzed. Wall, my guy, what's good? Where have you been hiding all weekend? You've been ghosting everyone. Before I could type a reply, a second notification popped up. Watching. Just drop this in the student council group chat. She's throwing a welcome tea party for the freshies down at the activity center the day after tomorrow. And get this, she sent me a personal invite, telling me to bring my roommates along too. I was chilling in the upscale lounge area of this luxury gym when the drama went down. Over in the private training zone, Suebanksia, Chang'e Quiet Rumate, the one famous for sewing 30 yuan jackets, was running through a flexibility test for her part-time coaching gig. Without any warm-up at all, this girl bent down, caught her toes, and yanked her leg past her shoulder until it rested flat against her ear, folding herself completely like a human pretzel. Her thigh was caught in a severe tremor, yet the lower leg remained completely rigid. A distinctive tag had been assigned to her by the system, and the underlying reason was finally clear to me. That degree of flexibility was completely beyond human limits. The wealthy spectator observing the scene, a middle-aged woman going by Jiangli Fun, drenched in diamonds and pure entitlement, had been eagerly anticipating Banksia's downfall. Instead, she was handed a front-row ticket to a circus act. Her expression twisted into a bitter scowl instantly. Nice form, Jiang Li Fan remarked casually, before deliberately tipping her high-end thermos to spill half a cup of lukewarm water directly across the yoga mat. The slip-resistant surface turned into a makeshift ice rink. Banksia's footing vanished from beneath her in a flash. An airborne spin was executed midair to steer clear of smashing the expensive gear, resulting in her landing full force on her ankle with a loud snap. The kind of crunch that makes your whole jaw cringe. Before the poor girl could even let out a gasp, Jiang Li Fun was already screaming like she was the actual victim. Here, are you trying to give me a heart attack? You clumsy country bumpkin. Could you even cover the bills if something happened to me? The store manager came sprinting across the floor and rushed immediately to coddle the rich patron, ignoring Banksia completely, who lay on the ground with a face as pale as a ghost. Then the manager spun around to lash out at Banksia. You almost harmed our most prized VIP client. Your commission is completely gone, and your perfect attendance bonus is wiped out too. Banksia clutched her rapidly ballooning ankle in agony. as heavy tears streamed down her face. She poured that water on purpose. Please don't dock my paycheck. That money is meant for my mom's medication next month. Jiang Lifen rolled her eyes in pure annoyance. Talk about dramatic. Always playing the sick relative card for sympathy. I dropped 80 grand on this membership. Not to listen to broke peasants whine, manager. Either she gets kicked out, or I'm canceling my card right now. Hearing the word cancellation, the manager practically short-circuited in panic. She whipped back toward Banksia with a pointed finger, ready to go totally nuclear. That was my cue to finally speak up from across the room. An 80,000 yuan gym pass, and she's acting like literal royalty over it. Is the bar for being a big deal in Shanghai actually this low? The manager pivoted, ready to chew me out as well. Yet my high-end designer fit made her pause in her tracks. She narrowed her eyes before deciding. I was just some rich kid playing dress-up. Non-members aren't allowed in the private zone. Who even are you? Giving her the total cold shoulder, I strode forward, right into the middle of the floor, and glared at Jiang Lifun like she was garbage on my soul. Ma'am, if menopause is kicking your butt this hard, you should probably go see a specialist, instead of taking it out on a part-time college student. It's honestly gross to watch. That mention of menopause hit her like a physical blow. Pure, unadulterated rage caused the fat around her neck to start trembling violently. A massive diamond ring shook fiercely on her finger. She was a woman accustomed to being treated like ultimate royalty, no matter where she went. Largely because her husband pulled in decent cash through construction work. Not a single soul had ever dared call her disgusting right to her face. She thrust a bedazzled fingernail aggressively toward my nose. You broke little white knight. You actually think putting on nice clothes makes you somebody important. You kids read way too many online web novels. You genuinely believe you're some big-shot CEO who can do whatever he wants. The manager chimed right in, desperately trying to score brownie points with her VIP client. I didn't waste a single breath arguing back. See, while I'd been chilling out in the lobby earlier, my eyes had caught a business transfer notice, tacking up a phone number right there on the wall. This entire gym was up for sale. Pulling out my phone, I quickly dialed the number on speaker. Hello, Mr. Wong. Word has it your Shanghai location is struggling big time, and you're actively searching for a buyer. I'm low-key interested, so just name your price. John Lee Fan cackled loudly. You're buying the store now. Who on earth is this performance for? Yet the owner on the line was a seriously sharp businessman. He knew random people simply don't call up about million-dollar acquisitions. Just for fun, straight to business. I like your style, prime location. Top-tier luxury renovation, 12 million for the whole package deal. Close within a week, and I'll drop it straight to 10 million flat. Consider it making a solid friend. 10 million compared to my daily 100 million allowance. Was basically pocket lint. 10 million works perfectly. Payment can be made in full today under one condition. I could hear the man's breathing suddenly cut off on the other end. All existing employee contracts must transfer over to me immediately. Done. Let's meet up at my private club on the Bund tonight. To sign the paperwork, I'll throw in a black gold membership card as a welcome gift. Disconnecting the call, the entire room fell dead silent. Every single word on speakerphone had been clearly heard by the manager, standing barely half a meter away. Her face cycled through wild emotions like a spinning slot machine. Arrogance, confusion, and then pure, absolute terror as her phone slipped straight from her fingers and clattered loudly onto the hard floor. John Lavin's jaw dropped wide open, looking like a choked duck while not a single sound managed to escape. Slipping my phone back into my pocket, I stood up slowly and strolled right up to the trembling manager. So are we crystal clear on who owns this place right now? She bent so low forward, I genuinely thought her spine might snap in half. B-boss, hello there. The atmosphere in the room completely flatlined. All those rich ladies who had been smirking smugly from the sidelines suddenly turned pale white and began thanking the heavens that they had managed to keep their mouths shut. My very first order of business as the fresh owner was pointing directly at the manager's ashen face. You're fired. Furthermore, those wages you were planning to unfairly dock from her, double that exact amount. Take it straight out of your final paycheck and hand it over to her. She totally deserved a worse fate. Yet I wasn't about to waste any more time on her. Turning my attention next toward John Lavin. Your membership is permanently canceled. With a flick of my wrist, I signaled the security guard over. Get this lady out of here, starting today. A brand new policy is now in effect for this establishment. No dogs allowed inside. And that goes for her too. Equating her directly with stray dogs on the floor. It was Pete Petty with minimal effort expended. Clutching her designer purse for dear life, she bolted out. Like the entire building was engulfed in flames. Calling the day, I announced the gym was officially shut down. Everyone immediately cleared out. Sue Banksia was the sole person left behind, balancing awkwardly on one good foot, looking completely ghosted and shell-shocked. She stared straight at me, as if I'd literally beamed down from Mars. Once the crowd had completely vanished, it was just me and Banksia left in the room. Down at her ankle, I cast my gaze. Puffed up to the size of a baseball, I gave a soft poke. Was it a nasty sprain or a fracture? Drawing a sharp hiss through her teeth, she flinched instantly, recoiling backward like a spooked kitten. Her eyes still carried that reddish hue, yet she fought hard to keep the tears from falling right in front of me. Stubborn as an absolute mule, this girl was housed inside the fragile frame of a baby deer. Every single word from outside reached my ears, and I chimed in, dropping my tone to a softer register. People who dedicate themselves to looking after their parents like you do don't stay down on their luck forever. This marked our very first real conversation. Clueless about who I actually was or the depth of my bank account, she simply took me for some aggressively generous weirdo who had gone completely overboard by purchasing an entire fitness facility just to win a petty dispute. Honestly, fair assessment on her part. Go collect your belongings, because I'm dispatching a ride to take you to the hospital for an x-ray. She immediately launched into her classic broke person routine, waving her hands frantically to refuse. One look from me, the "this isn't up for debate" look, shut her down instantly, prompting her to zip it and limp toward the corner to grab her canvas tote bag. Here is the funny thing about modern yoga attire. It is engineered skin-tight to dodge any visible panty lines. Apparently, girls tend to strip down completely au naturel underneath whenever they swap clothes. Having been completely rattled by this chaotic ordeal, Banksia had simply balled up all her personal items in a frenzy and shoved them haphazardly right in her bag. As she hobbled back, her wounded ankle buckled under her weight. Stepping forward quickly, I grabbed her by the arm, yet that abrupt lurch caused her poorly zipped tote to swing wide open. Resting right there on top of her dark garments was a minuscule sliver of white fabric, exceedingly small, deeply private, and unquestionably belonging to a young woman who desperately wanted zero eyes on it. Following a brief second of absolute silence, she tracked my gaze downward, spotted what was fully exposed, and her entire physique lit up instantly like a struck match. Her adorable ears flushed such a vivid crimson. They could have doubled as runway lights for airplanes at night. With the frantic energy of someone defusing a live nuclear warhead, she slammed her bag shut in a hurry and stumbled backward, utterly unable to meet my eyes. Yet what was truly eating away at her brain wasn't merely the sheer embarrassment of the moment. It was the daunting reality of her financial situation. I'm the proud owner of this gym now. Besides, I was the very guy who pulled her out of that mess. Raising her with strict values of returning favors was her mom's specialty. Therefore, how could it ever cross her mind to hit up her savior for her overdue paycheck? Yet, her mother's hospital balance was practically running on empty, leaving her in desperate need of that cash. Up rolled the luxury vehicle, prompting her to launch into her refusal speech all over again. Without missing a beat, I swooped down and scooped her right up. A full-on Princess Carrie, executed with zero warning. Pure reflex caused her to latch onto my arm instantly. In a split second, our faces were way too close for comfort. A heavy whiff of whatever cologne I had on hit her senses dead on, and her face immediately flashed nuclear red. She dropped her grip on my arm like it was burning hot lava. Depositing her safely into the back seat, I shut the car door behind her. It was a smooth, silent ride with a solid driver, cutting out all small talk except for the AC humming and tires kissing the asphalt. Banksia kept her gaze glued to the side window, her tiny ears remaining completely flushed pink the entire trip. After a brief moment, she finally mustered the nerve to swivel around. A faint, mosquito-level whisper slipped past her lips. "I'm Sue Banksia, what's your name?" Every single syllable practically oozed with "please don't hurt me" vibes. Her whole vibe gave off the heavy energy of a traumatized hamster that had been yelled at way too many times. "Oh hey, you're Sue too, I'm Sumo." Leaning back into my seat, I locked eyes with her. She gave off the exact impression of a timid little niece. Capitalizing on our matching names, I couldn't help myself. "You really ought to just call me Uncle." Her brain totally short-circuited right then. All this time, she had been mentally bracing herself, just in case I demanded she call me Big Brother, already dreading how utterly awkward that would be. "Uncle, Her huge doe eyes bulged wide open, and her jaw dropped, staying frozen in place. Not a single word managed to escape her mouth for a solid 5 seconds. I flashed a grin like the total menace I was. Sue plus sue equals shu shu unkle. It's just basic math. She was left with 0 comebacks. Literally none. Arriving at the hospital, we got her ankle x-rayed while killing time for the results. Her battered phone buzzed loudly, displaying floor 2 nurse station on the caller ID. Picking up the call. Her expression immediately clouded over with stress. She offered a few nods, mumbled some empty promises about scraping the cash together soon, and quickly slammed the phone down. Parked right next to her on those cheap, scratchy blue plastic chairs, I didn't even have to ask. My brain had already connected every single dot. The doctor eventually stepped out to confirm a bad sprain, ruling out any fractures and handing over some circulation ointment. Right as we headed out, she suddenly froze in her tracks. Could you help me get up to the 2nd floor? Her eyes remained locked onto the gleaming floor tiles, her fingers twisting together so tightly that her knuckles turned completely ghost white. My mom's staying up there. I want to drop by, she stated plainly without any dramatic flair or fishing for pity. Just a devoted kid wanting to check on her sick mother. Sure thing, I replied, accompanying her up the stairs. A pungent wave of harsh disinfectant hung heavy in the hallway. Halting right outside room 203. She caught herself on the door frame and glanced back at me. Wait out here, it's way too cramped inside. My back was pressed against the sterile, white hallway wall, both of my hands shoved deep into my pockets, while my eyes stayed glued to the tiny glass panel on the door. Inside that absolute madhouse of a cheap, communal ward, 6 beds were jammed together. A totally chaotic and grim scene. Smack in the middle of it all was her. A scrawny kid rocking a completely wrecked ankle, limping back and forth under the fluorescent lights to tend to her mother, as if her own body wasn't entirely on the verge of collapsing. Honestly, bailing out hours ago would have been the logical move. Absolutely nothing was forcing me to remain posted up in this dreary medical corridor, right in the middle of a Saturday, yet something specific about this kid, specifically how close she came to shedding tears, after being targeted by that wealthy lady's sheer toxicity, only to stubbornly hold herself together, combined with how quietly she had slipped that soothing aloe gel right onto Chung's pillowcase, without making a peep, was exactly what anchored me here. Besides, messing with her gave me a low-key rush of amusement. The universe basically treated her like its own personal punching bag, continually throwing hooks at her, yet bouncing back up with wide, terrified eyes was her only response to taking an insane amount of damage. So, during the time Banksia was occupied at her mother's bedside, a quick trip down to the billing department was made by yours truly, where tapping my phone instantly wiped out her entire medical debt. Throwing in a little extra cash to cover any upcoming prescriptions was a no-brainer too. Following that, a pit stop at the main nursing desk was required, where explicit instructions were given to transfer her mom to a solo suite. Nobody is ever going to recover properly inside a 6-bed circus like that. By the time my boots hit that upstairs hallway again, a highly bewildered-looking Banksia was just hovering out there, desperately checking left and right, giving off major abandoned golden retriever at the dog park vibes. The second her eyes caught me strolling her way, a tiny, genuine grin instantly brightened up her entire face, putting those cute dimples on full display, despite her eyelids remaining completely swollen and pink from her earlier breakdown. Staring at her was like looking at a stray kitten that had been relentlessly picked on, only to finally receive a gentle head pat. The news about the settled invoice was casually dropped by me, which predictably caused the waterworks to start flowing all over again. Massive, heavy teardrops began splattering against the linoleum like a summer downpour. Guilting you into footing the bill was definitely not why I dragged you up here. Her arms were thrashing around in sheer panic, as her oversized sleeve aggressively scrubbed her wet cheeks, her vocal cords basically shattering on every other syllable. Apologizing for simply taking up oxygen seemed to be this kid's factory setting. Massaging my temples, I sighed. Chill out. No objections were made back in my ride when I instructed you to address me as uncle. Remember? Therefore, wearing my uncle hat, knocking out a tiny solid for my pseudo-niece, is literally standard procedure. Now get back in there and look after your mother. I'm on a tight schedule. Pivoting on my heel, a direct path toward the elevator banks was taken, skipping the farewells entirely. Almost immediately, the chaotic, smacking sound of a single good sneaker hitting the hard floor echoed behind my back. Every single cent is going to be returned to you. She was literally pursuing me through the hall on a completely wrecked joint, screaming until her throat sounded like sandpaper. Just drop your routing info right now. Hustling 3 different gigs is fine by me, if that's what it takes. Hitting the brakes, my gaze shifted over my shoulder to catch her standing there, a flushed, fiercely defiant mess, dead set on rejecting any form of a handout, despite literally balancing like a flamingo on one foot. A genuine chuckle escaped my chest. Don't even sweat the repayment. Just call me uncle once, and we're square. Before she could even start arguing, I slipped right into the elevator. Those heavy doors slid shut on her face, while she stood frozen in the middle of the hallway, clutching her smashed phone tightly, with her jaw practically dropping to the floor, completely ghosted by shock and unable to process the absolute chaos. Now this is where the plot actually thickens. Even though I only caught all the tea later on, over back in that stuffy, low-key, depressing hospital room, Banksy's mom, Lu Yujuan, was propped up in bed, looking super fragile, yet rocking a gaze sharper than a hawk's. Trust me, this lady had seen some serious things. The exact moment Banksia limped back inside, her mom dropped a major truth bomb. That guy who had her back outside. What's your actual vibe on him? Banksia's face instantly went from pale to total tomato red. In half a second flat, she dropped onto a plastic stool and panic dumped the whole story right then and there. About the toxic rich lady and me casually buying the gym over a phone call. Plus me sneaking off to clear her massive hospital bill. Her mom absorbed every single detail, without showing a single shred of excitement. No dramatic "oh, how amazing," or any rush to go thank him this second. Instead, she just stared down her daughter, with those piercing x-ray eyes, and repeated the question, "So what's your real take on him?" Caught completely off guard, Banksia looked totally baffled. "Take what, Mom?" Letting out a heavy sigh, imbued with the deep wisdom of someone who had survived decades of brutal struggles, her mother spoke up. "Financial debt can always be paid back, even if you have to resort to borrowing from sketchy loan sharks. But emotional debt? That kind of ledger never clears. The more you keep entangling yourself with him, the messier those personal accounts get. Eventually, money won't even be the main issue anymore." Shaking her head frantically, Banksia tried to defend herself. "I'll just hustle hard, pay him back every dime, and keep my distance." Meeting her gaze, her mom gave her that classic, "You sweet, innocent idiot" look. "Then why were you bawling your eyes out in the hallway just now? And what was with that smile?" Boom, direct hit. Banksia's mouth just flopped open and shut like a gasping goldfish, with 0 words coming out, feeling like her throat was stuffed with cotton. Right after that, her mother dropped a line that completely shattered all of Banksia's emotional defenses. "Trust me, I know exactly how wrecked my physical body is, and I've already been dragging you down for way too long. My only wish in this world is that you don't waste your entire life chained down by this broken family. Yet right now, I can't even afford my own basic prescriptions, let alone ever pull you out of this deep swamp." Shifting her body to face her weeping daughter directly. "If you genuinely feel nothing for this guy, then don't you dare accept such a massive favor purely because of me. Because obligations built on someone literally saving your life might take your whole lifetime to pay back. And by the end of it, your own heart gets dragged into the deal too." Collapsing forward with her face buried in her hands. With her shoulders shaking, Banksia sobbed out, "Mom, please stop. You're all I've got left, so don't talk like you're abandoning me." Once her heavy tears finally began to slow down, her mom softly asked one final, probing question. "Forget about all these favors and just give it to me straight. Through the middle of everything that went down today, did you feel even a tiny shred of awkwardness or bad vibes around him?" Banksia sat silent, lost in thought for a long moment. Flashing back, she recalled me acting wildly cocky over at the gym and how I totally forced her to address me as uncle with that annoying smirk. Yet she also remembered how I had swooped in to help without making her feel small. Giving a firm shake of her head, she whispered, "No weirdness at all, not even once." A faint smile touched her mom's lips. 5 words dropped. "This kind of guy only comes around once." There was no hard pressure, no obvious matchmaking attempt. She simply began unpacking memories from her own rough past, discussing those vulnerable situations where women end up handing their hearts over too fast, and pointing out just how rare it is to find someone who bails you out at your absolute lowest, without making you feel pathetic about it. Meanwhile, I was sitting in the back of a taxi racing back to campus, watching the neon skyline of Shanghai blur past the window. Then ding. Target Sue Banksia development progress. 5%. System note, mother-in-law. Divine assist. The target has officially experienced her first faint romantic sparks toward a male. Hidden attribute. Development prerequisites are now fully unlocked. Mother-in-law divine assist. The system literally gave her mom credit for wingmaning me, and I didn't even lift a finger. While I was still in transit back to the hospital grounds, Banksia was icing her swollen, balloon-like ankle when her dorm group chat suddenly blew up. John Ling was blasting out an open invite for everyone to grab barbecue. Normally, Banksia would have ranted all about getting axed from her yoga studio gig and fished hard for some sympathy hugs. Instead, she casually tapped out. Way too exhausted from work today. You guys go ahead without me. That marked the absolute first secret she had ever kept from her roommates in her entire 20 years of life. The hilarious irony here was that Shango and her were now sitting under the exact same roof, both guarding the exact same secret, completely clueless that they had both crossed paths with the same dude. Pushing open our dorm room door, I was instantly punched in the face by an odor, so violently foul. It honestly belonged on a restricted chemical weapons list. Cheap instant beef ramen mixed with fermented gym sneakers. Standing right there on the threshold, I inhaled deeply and thought, somehow this toxic cocktail of teenage boy funk genuinely feels like home. Wong Hao was sprawled face down across his mattress, bashing his phone screen like it owed him a grand. Leaning over quietly for a peek, I saw he was staring hard at John Wan Chin's latest social media update. A basic picture of a Starbucks latte, showcasing 4 freshly manicured fingernails. The absolute clown had been drafting a comment underneath, currently sitting on version 4 of his reply to a coffee snap. For different drafts for a girl who doesn't even know he breathes. Scrambling up to my top bunk with a stone-cold expression, I was suddenly cut off as he shoved his phone right into my face. Yo bro, help a brother out. Does this comment low-key sound okay? 2 words, deleted. What, why? Because even the most toxic girl on earth won't date her own desperate simp. Lurking in the replies. Lu Chong, our resident walking Wikipedia, suddenly dropped a full breakdown regarding tomorrow's massive event. Word is that every single September, our campus hosts an insane tradition dubbed the Battle of 100 Clubs, where over 60 student orgs set up tents on the field to hunt for fresh meat, with the absolute hype of a sportscaster hyping the World Cup finals. Lu Chong gave us the full rundown. This is basically our school's annual beauty pageant. Let me brief you guys on the must-visit booths, he announced, clearing his throat dramatically. Number 1, we have the Anime Club. Their president is none other than Yujikyo, officially one of the top 4 campus crushes. She pulls in millions of online followers, and her latest cosplay pics were reposted over 3,000 times on the student forum last year. Moving on to number 2. The modeling club is packed wall-to-wall with towering girls over 5 feet 7 inches. Without fail, the line of guys showing up just a gawk stretches all the way from the field to the cafeteria. Number 3 is the dance club. And number 4, he wrapped it up with a grand summary. Just keep this one rule in mind. The sheer concentration of gorgeous girls tomorrow, calculated per square meter, is going to hit the absolute peak of the entire academic year. Emma Chin, our low-key coding roommate, who basically lives inside his laptop screen, just pushed up his glasses and muttered, "I'll pass," before diving right back in his code, instantly forgetting about the 5 draft versions of his masterpiece comment. Legend Wong grabbed my arm and yelled, "Let's go check out the madness tomorrow." I just shrugged with a whatever vibe and agreed. Meanwhile, over at the girls' dorm, Banksia had limped in on the city bus. Esporting aí a vida bondage dunkly. A scraped-up wrist and nasty bruises staining her arms. Fong Jin spotted her from the top bunk and shrieked, as if she just stumbled onto a crime scene. Zhang Ling rushed over immediately to inspect the damage, while Banksia already had her cover story locked and loaded. I just took a bad tumble on my part-time job, but the doctor said there's no fracture, so I'm totally fine. Fong Jin grumbled suspiciously. That gig sounds seriously hazardous. Why is everybody getting wrecked today? Hearing that, Changa, who had been trying her best to blend into the background at her desk, instantly stiffened up. Still, she couldn't just ignore an injured roommate. So, she offered, "Do you happen to have any medicated ointment? I can help rub some on before bed." Neither of them had a single clue that their injuries stemmed from the exact same guy me. Talk about a wild and ironic plot twist. Zhang Ling handed Banksia a cup of warm water, saying, "Here you go, Susu. Sit down and prop that foot up." That nickname Susu was something she had answered to her whole life. 20 solid years with zero issues. Yet this time around, the second those two syllables hit her eardrums, her brain completely short-circuited and replayed a totally different voice instead. My voice from that car, telling her to call me Uncle Sue, where plus Sue equals shoo-shoo. Her ears flared bright red as her trembling fingers gripped the water cup tightly. Much obliged, Lingling. Not a single clue was picked up by Zhongling. With a sharp clap of her hands, she dropped a major announcement. Listen up, squad. Tomorrow is the legendary battle of 100 clubs. Some warm bodies are desperately needed for our anime club. Her eyes locked instantly onto Chang'e and Banksia, acting just like a heat-seeking missile. You're done with that cafeteria shift, right, Chang'e? And Banksia, you definitely aren't hitting any yoga tomorrow. The school is handing out 200 yuan, alongside a free lunch for just pitching in. Literally all you gotta do is exist near our booth. A flat refusal was Chang'e's initial knee-jerk reaction. Standing in a crowded spot wasn't on her bucket list, because someone might totally spot the hickeys on her neck. Until Zhongling swooped in with a killer pitch. You don't even have to lift a finger, bestie. Just park your gorgeous face next to our sign. And freshmen will literally simp over just to sign up. Silence hung around Chang'e for a solid 10 seconds, before a secret thought popped into her head, that she'd take straight to the grave. Since the whole school was going to be swarming the field, would he happen to be hanging out there too? And if he actually showed, what fit should she pull off? Giving a quiet murmur, the Ice Queen gave in and agreed to the gig, while Zhongling immediately pivoted to Banksia. An excuse regarding her injury was quickly attempted by Banksia, though Zhongling shut it down instantly. You can literally sit down the entire time, just reviewing paperwork while chilling in a folding chair. Just look at it as a nice little sunbath session. That 200 yuan was no joke for Banksia's tight budget. Her mom's medical bills were finally sorted out, yet her personal wallet was still surviving on fumes. A deep blush appeared before she nodded. Both girls locked eyes right across the narrow dorm aisle. Chang'e's mind was flashing back to me, casually dropping 300k on a massive shopping spree, while Fengxiao was picturing me buying out an entire gym, without breaking a single sweat. A bitter, self-deprecating smile crossed both their faces, before they gave a synchronized nod of total agreement. Yep, tomorrow's 200 yuan shift was officially locked in. Because when you're drowning in debt, matching a small country's GDP, every single penny counts. Stepping back into my dorm straight from showers, I caught Wang Hao grinding away on version 5, while Luo Chong was already out cold, sawing logs like a diesel engine chugging up a steep mountain. Hanging on my wet towel, my thoughts drifted to tomorrow. The legendary 4 campus beauties didn't really hype me up much, considering I'd already gotten up close and personal with Chang'e. However, that anime club president, Yujicho, was someone I actually scrolled past on short video apps, all through summer break. Dropping by the anime club booth tomorrow, just a vibe and take a look might be worth it. The campus resembled a chaotic blender stuffed with a million freshmen, with rows of colorful club booths stretching endlessly from one edge of the field straight to the student center, and promotional banners hanging tighter than packed laundry lines. The atmosphere carried a distinct aesthetic mix of sweat, cheap cologne, sweet fruity perfume, and sizzling grilled sausages from the nearby convenience store. Wang Hao was bouncing right beside me like an escaped, hyperactive husky, with his head swiveling back and forth like a radar dish. Yo, check this out, man. Legs for days over at the modeling club. Standing at 5'9" easily is that chicken white. I took a quick look. Tall girls are fine, I guess. Yet hanging out all week with absolute goddesses rated SSS meant staring at normal pretty girls. Just felt like browsing discount clearance beef, right after feasting on pure Wagyu every night. Let's head straight for the anime club first. Since when have you actually cared about anime? I don't care about anime. I care about the club. Wang Hao opened his mouth to speak, then stopped, shutting it completely as he just kept walking. Any debate against my absolute ego had proved entirely pointless to him. Prime real estate was claimed by the anime club booth, positioned right outside the student center. Cosplay photos and posters have been put up everywhere, courtesy of Zhongling. Yet the true killer feature wasn't the decorations. Chongsu was there rocking a pale blue dress, clinging tightly to her slim waist, with a hemline stopping right beneath her knees. She was even wearing actual makeup like mascara and lip tint, the whole 9 yards. Our resident Ice Queen, who typically looked like she would rather chew broken glass than touch a single cosmetic product, had voluntarily dolled herself up for today. What could possibly be her grand motive, I wondered? A chilling aura mixed with her porcelain skin had cast a strict 3-meter perimeter around the booth. Freshmen kept staring from a safe distance away, treating her like some rare artifact in a museum exhibit. Look, but don't even breathe. Don't touch and honestly don't exist. Banksia was also spotted sitting down behind a folding table, under the open sky, resting her sprained ankle carefully on a cardboard box, while she quietly filled out registration paperwork, dressed in a faded gray hoodie with zero makeup, and a low ponytail making her practically invisible, standing right next to Chongsu's lethal gorgeousness. Yet I noticed her eyes kept wandering toward the crowd, scanning around because both of them were searching for someone. Truth be told, both were looking for me. Neither had any clue about the other. Hey Wong Hao, go wander off by yourself, because I'm hitting the anime club. Following the direction of my gaze, Wong Hao caught sight of Chongsu, and his expression cycled through. Pure shock, jealousy, and deep acceptance in 3 seconds flat. Fine, whatever, go ahead. Grabbing 2 cups of hot milk tea, I began strolling over, only for another predator to start circling, coming in from the exact opposite direction. Xiao Zixuan, otherwise known as the MUD Puddle Boy himself, had shown up decked out in Balenciaga from head to toe. He's sporting a Rolex Submariner, blazing on his wrist like a blinding lighthouse, flanked closely by a couple of lackeys, evidently having given up on Chongsu after his secret girlfriend. Zhou Jiqing spilled the beans that the Ice Queen was damaged goods. He was currently out shopping for fresh new targets. Banksia suddenly caught his wandering eyes, sitting peacefully in the bright sunlight, with a clean makeup-free face radiating simplicity, looking like a rare, undiscovered wildflower in the wild. And more importantly, she looked totally broke. Zhao Zixuan licked his lips with anticipation. Inside his head, a mental cash register started ringing up numbers. Stepping closer, he crouched down with that classic white knight charity vibe. Yo, hey there. What happened to your foot? That looks brutal. Do you want me to drive you to the clinic right now? My ride's parked right over there. Banksia didn't even bother looking up. No thanks. He tried again. I'm Xiao Zixuan, also majoring in business administration. You've definitely heard of me around. Want to exchange WeChat info? Her eyelids slowly fluttered open, giving him a stare so deadpan and utterly unimpressed. It felt like getting splashed with lukewarm tap water. Not interested. His suave smile instantly glitched. He was already loading up pickup line version 2.0 when a fresh milk tea slid into the frame and landed softly on the wooden table right in front of Banksia Susu. Your uncle brought you a drink, kiddo. Keep that injured ankle warm, all right? Banksia jolted straight up like she'd just grabbed a live wire. Meanwhile, I was just chilling half a meter away with my own iced tea, sporting that exact grin she found equally cringeworthy and heart-stopping. Her ears shifted from pale to fire engine crimson. In about 2 seconds flat, a hot blush creeping down her neck like liquid magma. Why are you even here? Just passing by, you know? Yeah, totally casual. Just bought 2 specific custom drinks and hiked across the entire campus field. Pure coincidence, right? Xiao Zixuan's fache tui stead in anoyanche. Who the hell do you think you are, man? I didn't even turn around, keeping my focus entirely on Banksia and her unraveling medical tape. As I dropped down on one knee to fix it, she pulled her foot back, though only by a tiny fraction. Her voice muttered no. No, seriously, it's fine. Yet her sneaker stayed firmly within arm's reach. Hey, are you deaf or something? I'm talking to you. Xiao Zixuan was literally losing his mind. There's an unwritten cue for hitting on girls here, buddy. You really think a cheap cup of tea lets you cut in line? Get to the back, bro. Slowly, I tilted my head and graced him with a look, lasting precisely 2 seconds. The exact look you give a dead bug floating in your soup. Did military drill bake your brains out in the sun, or what? Maybe you should donate your eyeballs to someone who actually knows how to use them. Can't you tell she clearly wants nothing to do with you? His loyal sidekick immediately jumped in. Do you even know who this is? That shiny Audi A6 parked by the edge of the field? Yeah, that's his whip. I processed this vital intel and replied, with a single devastatingly unimpressed syllable, oh. Then I went right back to fixing Banksia's bandage. She was gripping her pen handle so intensely. Her knuckles turned ghostly white, face completely flushed red. Yet she still didn't push me away. Xiao Zixuan looked ready to combust on the spot, when an ice-cold voice sliced through the tension. This happens to be a club sign-up booth, in case you forgot. If you guys aren't joining, stop blocking the walkway. Chang'e had suddenly materialized right beside Banksia's chair, glares fixed on Xiao Zixuan, with enough sub-zero frost to freeze the whole courtyard solid. She just told him scram, not sparing a single word for me, and refusing to glance my way even once. Xiao Zixuan caught that detail immediately, and you could practically see the tiny hamster in his brain huffing on its wheel. Could someone explain why the Ice Queen is low-key writing for this dude? Stepping back with a smug grin, he dropped his parting words right on me, at a volume loud enough for the whole crowd to eavesdrop. Don't simp too hard, kid. Thinking she's actually into you or something. Some wealthy guys already bought her out. Probably ran through from head to toe right outside campus gates. Looks me nothing out here. Cash is king. Chunga's face went completely ghost white. Her lips started shaking, not out of rage, but pure panic as she whipped her head around to look at me, desperately hunting for disgust, for trust, for any hint that I'd actually fallen for his trash talk. Meanwhile, I was biting my cheek to keep from dying of laughter, because that mysterious sugar daddy who allegedly bought Chuna. Yeah, that was literally me. This absolute clown had just sprinted across the turf to warn me that my own investment was currently being enjoyed by yours truly. He was essentially trying to hand me a crown of horns, except the supposed cuckold, and the guy getting the warning were the exact same person. This honestly ranked as the funniest main character moment of my entire life. Pushing myself up slowly, I brushed the dirt off my pants and fixed my eyes on Chuna. She was staring straight back with those wide, terrified, interrogating eyes before I leaned in close to whisper in her ear. You're actually rocking that dress today, NGL. Her brain totally blue-screened, and then every single drop of blood in her body rushed straight to her face. Out of nowhere, Lin Jior, our resident campus IT girl, glided over in a meticulously planned, pleated skirt, actively hunting for a high roller. Her gaze locked onto my sneakers like a heat-seeking missile. She definitely spotted that exact brand on some exclusive luxury flex group chat. That a 5-figure minimum right there, and she quickly scanned the rest of my fit. Everything screamed low-key luxury and carried the exact aesthetic signature of an undercover trust fund kid. Her breathing turned noticeably shallow, convinced she'd just struck an untouched gold mine, while nobody else in the school even realized it yet. By midday, the athletic field was packed to absolute capacity, with Chuna and Banksia, both trapped right near the anime club booth, painfully conscious of each other's breathing distance, and desperately pretending they had zero clue who I was. The awkward static crackling between them was invisible, yet crackling with heavy tension until Wang Hao grabbed my elbow. Let's bounce before the cafeteria sells out of the good chicken legs. I had barely pivoted on my heel when Lin Wan materialized right in front of my path, as if she had just teleported, trailing a subtle cloud of perfume, tucking a loose lock of hair neatly behind her ear, while clutching 2 complimentary drinks from a student council. Her 100-watt pageant smile flashed instantly. You're sumo, right? Here, grab a drink. I'm Lin Gui. I was standing directly in your row during military training orientation. I accepted the cup with a quick nod of thanks, though she kept right on rolling. What clubs are you thinking of rushing? None at all. My casual brush-off didn't phase her energy for a second, as she leaned in closer and dropped her tone into a conspiratorial hum, playing her ultimate power card, that sleek Porsche Panamera parked over by the freshman dorms. That belongs to you, doesn't it? Freezing mid-sip, I gave her a long look. A very specific look that said it all. A triumphant vibe washed over her, convinced she had just dealt a total knockout blow. Her pulse was hammering away as she firmly believed she was the absolute first person across campus to decode my actual identity. Cluelessness completely defined her state, failing to realize that the elusive, wealthy guy who allegedly swept up Changa was actually hanging out right in front of her, sipping complimentary juice just 10 meters away. Watching Lin Jioi press herself so close that she was practically glued to my arm, Changa observed the scene with a brewing storm in her eyes. The stack of flyers was crushed tightly within Changa's trembling fingers, until the paper was completely warped. Seriously, come back. Am I honestly not better than that flat chick? Nudging her gently, Zhongling murmured that the freshman was kind of cute, wondering out loud if he was trying to slide into their club. Keeping her lips tightly zipped, Changa said nothing, lifting her gaze from her chair right behind them. Feng Xiao caught Changa's intense facial expression. That icy exterior mask barely concealed the chaos boiling underneath, which, when paired with Xiao Zixuan's earlier accusations, and the way Changa had rushed to defend me, sparked a wild conspiracy theory inside Banksia's head. Pushing the thought down instantly, she dismissed it. No way, Sumu just doesn't give off that kind of vibe at all. securing what she had been hunting for. Lin Jiawei fished my WeChat from the class group chat and slipped away into a quiet corner, pulling up those specific snapshots she had secretly snapped over at Plaza 66. She saw Chango trailing behind a tall guy, whose face was completely blocked by the camera angle, studying that blurry silhouette closely, and reflecting on how weirdly Chang'e had been acting around me. She realized she couldn't wait another second. If she hesitated now, her freshly spotted target would easily get reeled in by that low-key manipulative Chang'e, uploading the photos from a burner account. She watched screenshots bounce around every single campus gossip chat within 30 minutes flat. The rumor mill was spinning at maximum velocity. Zhongling spotted it first, slamming her phone face down onto the table in panic, while trying to block Chang'e from seeing. Too little, too late. Fong Jeans had already dropped a frantic voice memo into their group chat. Unlocking her phone, Chang'e laid eyes on the photo and the rumors, causing all the color to instantly drain from her face. Her panic had nothing to do with being labeled a kept woman, though. She was utterly terrified that I would assume SHE had leaked those photos ourselves, that I would think she was trying to trap me into a corner, and that I would recall my own words about not wanting to hang myself from just one tree, and decide she was simply too much drama to deal with. Since when did she start stressing this intensely over my opinion? Texting me to meet her behind the gym, she was found waiting in a secluded spot, wound up so tight she looked like she might shatter any second. Sumo, please let me clear up that photo situation. I never asked anyone to post it online, and I had zero clue someone was snapping pictures. Pulling out my phone, I pulled up the exact image and held it right between us. Her breathing instantly froze, and as I pointed right at the blurry male silhouette, I noted honestly that the photographer's angle was absolute trash. The pap pics completely botched, framing your sugar daddy's handsome face right. For 3 full seconds, her brain completely lagged out. Then a sudden volcanic wave of sheer embarrassment, along with an unnameable feeling, surged straight from her toes all the way up to her crown. A deep crimson blush spread wildly from her ears down to her collarbone, snapping her head away with such sudden velocity. She nearly gave herself whiplash. Stop saying that. Who's even a sugar daddy here? Her whispered retort sounded fainter than a tiny bug's buzz. Gazing at her flushed complexion, he noticed. Her ear tips were literally smoking hot, while her pursed lips held a faint, subtle bean paste tint. Seeing the ultimate ice queen melt like that was low-key adorable. Closing the distance between us, I trapped her space by slamming my hand flat against the wall, my frame effectively hedging her in against the cold surface. Locking eyes with those soft lips, I leaned in and kissed her. Her eyes flew wide open as she shoved against my chest, with the feeble force of a remote control with dying batteries, before eventually letting her guard down and closing her eyes. A cheerful chime rang out from the system interface. First kiss milestone progress up by 5%, bringing the total to 20%, but right when the vibe peaked. My fingers accidentally grazed those faint underwear. Lines pressed in her skin, causing her to gasp in pain. The romantic spell shattered instantly, making her shove me back, with actual force this time. All because I had never given her an official title, offering zero confession or asking her to be my girlfriend. I had just strolled right up and kissed her like a total boss. And the kicker was that she had actually kissed me back. Then flashbacks hit her of my warning that I might start bringing other girls over to the penthouse, causing her heavy embarrassment to curdle instantly into pure rage. You're such a jerk, she snarled before turning on her heel to bolt through the back door. Meanwhile, over at the booth section, Banksia was glued to the viral gossip snapshots on her smartphone screen. That extremely blurry male silhouette in the background matched my exact build, down to a T, especially since Chang'e had just offended me earlier, followed by both Chang'e and me vanishing into thin air simultaneously. The math was finally pointing toward an uncomfortable truth. She desperately tried to deny. That mysterious Porsche-driving sugar daddy was none other than me. The exact same guy who insisted on calling himself her uncle. The very same benefactor who bought out a gym and covered her mother's hefty medical bills. Her mother's words echoed loudly inside her head. Catches like this only come around once in a lifetime. So don't you dare let this golden opportunity slip away. Biting her lower lip while her hands shook nervously, Fengxia picked up her cracked phone screen, opened up my WeChat chat log, and drafted a bold message. Her heart pounding so hard it felt ready to burst out. Chang'e practically scrambled out through the gym's back exit and disappeared around the corner in a flash. I could easily track her panic by the frantic echo of her footsteps, stumbling clumsily like a newborn fawn trying to outrun a wolf. Somewhere down that dim hallway, she was undoubtedly touching her tingling lips right then, and mentally calling herself an absolute fool. Good times indeed as I casually settled down onto the wooden gym bleachers, feeling entirely at peace with how life was going, until my phone buzzed with a notification from Mom, delivering a hefty 40-second voice note. Tapping play immediately, her booming voice echoed out, "Son, an 800 yuan fishing rod was secretly ordered online by your dad." The sneaky idiot tried to dodge suspicion by putting the delivery address at Old Wong's convenience store right next door. But Old Wong went out to restock supplies today, so the courier brought it straight to our restaurant instead. I unboxed the whole thing right in front of him, and now he's kneeling on a washboard in the living room, while I low-key lost it laughing. Seriously. One minute, I was pinning an ice queen against a wall for a kiss, and the next, I'm getting real-time updates on Dad's disciplinary hearing. The emotional whiplash was unreal. I could picture the whole scene vividly. Dad on his knees with his head hanging low, and his dusty fishing gear sitting forgotten in the trunk. Just another guy totally owned by his own shipping details. I typed back to Mom saying, "Let him off the hook. 800 yuan for a bit of joy isn't even bad." 2 seconds later, another voice message bomb dropped. "Let him off? Only you would stick up for him, seriously. You're in college now anyway. Remember that high school girl who ghosted you? Just because we weren't rolling in cash. Forget about her and pull a nice college girl instead. Mom standards are super low, as long as a single female classmate is willing to give you the time of day. I'll be happy." Totally classic mom behavior. Her matchmaking playbook hasn't had a single update since prehistoric times, so I hit reply without missing a beat. "Don't sweat it, I'll pull up with a whole squad of them. Your restaurant won't even have enough chairs." She fired back a classic eye roll emoji. Fair enough. I shoved my phone into my pocket and let out a long breath, while my brain, completely against my will, started replaying highlight reels in my head. Chung standing there looking like Snow White in that dressing room, alongside Banksy rocking that worn-out canvas bag while clutching that tiny piece of white fabric, and Banksy putting on a stubborn, teary-eyed front, while desperately fighting back tears in front of me. Two completely different girls were somehow both living rent-free in my mind. Meanwhile, Chuna had pressed her back against the hallway wall, somewhere in the school building, trying desperately to cool down her nuclear-powered blush, before reality hit her like a brick wall. The 500 yuan deadline for her little sister, Xiao Shi's study trip, was scheduled for tomorrow morning, even though she had explicitly reminded her sister to handle the payment. She called and asked, "Sis, I didn't actually use the money for the trip." Chunga's stomach immediately dropped. "What do you mean? I told you that cash was strictly for the field trip. It's a rare chance to tour top high schools across the city." Dead silence echoed on the line before a broken, tiny voice answered. "That toxic aunt came over to our house again, claiming you must be doing shady things over in Shanghai." Mom got so worked up she could barely breathe, so the village chief had to rush her to the clinic on his old tricycle, and since the medicine cost 200 yuan, I had to use the excursion money to cover it. That parasitic aunt of theirs years ago, right after Chunga's father tragically died in a mining accident, had teamed up with the uncle to borrow the lion's share of the compensation payout and never bothered paying back a single cent. And now they actually had the absolute nerve to show up, demanding more handouts while slandering Chunga's name. On top of everything else, making Chunga's eyes turn bloodshot red. Her fingers were trembling hard against the device. Inquiries regarding her mother's health were made instantly. After telling her sister to handle everything, she abruptly disconnected. Sliding down the brick surface, her body collapsed into a tight knot. Tucked away in the darkest shadows, she clutched her legs. All around her, the campus festival was buzzing with loud music and roaring chatter. Zhongling could be heard clearly, shouting out for her near the anime club booth. Freshmen were drifting past with promotional flyers in hand. Shedding tears out in the open was completely out of the question. Being the eldest daughter of an impoverished household means you never get to have a low-key breakdown. For certain folks, 500 yuan is just half a meal at a hot pot joint. To me, it wouldn't even cover half a tire on my Porsche. Yet for her, that exact amount meant the ultimate divide between her sibling seizing a chance and remaining trapped in that rural village forever. Just 10 minutes prior, she had been pinned against a wall, locked in a deep kiss with a guy worth 200 million. Now, she was huddled low in a corner, freaking out over a minor 500 yuan. The stark contrast was enough to make your stomach turn. Wiping her face, she stood up abruptly, brushed off her outfit, and aggressively shoved every single shred of vulnerability deep into her soul. She was back to being the ultimate ice queen, returning to her usual survival mode. Lounging on the bleachers, I licked my lips lazily. The sweet trace of her being paste lipstick still lingered. My mind wasn't actually fixated on the kiss itself, though. Instead, her prior actions caught my attention. Instead of tracking down the gossipers when those rumors blew up, she didn't bother trying to clear her name publicly. Her very first instinct was to sprint straight toward me, begging me not to jump to conclusions. She was terrified I would assume she leaked those pictures. That exact reaction spoke volumes. Before she even realized it, she had already put herself in a dynamic where my validation meant everything to her. She was practically reporting and explaining herself to me, treating my opinion as the ultimate standard. Rubbing my chin thoughtfully, I was pretty confident I had unlocked her hidden trait. Beneath all that icy exterior and stubborn pride, she possessed an old-school, traditional soul, a deep-rooted, innate drive to dedicate herself fully to someone she chose. Once her person was locked in, she would go all out, deeply loyal, attentive, and almost submissive. And talk about total commitment. 20% character development unlocked, plus a first kiss secured. Pretty solid opening stats, though looking at the big picture, she genuinely had it rough. She was a campus stunner blessed with a goddess-tier face, yet barely scraping by financially, constantly stressing over whether she could afford milk tea. Lately, on top of that, she had been pulling unpaid labor shifts, acting as my unofficial personal assistant, not to mention suffering some serious occupational hazards, like having her entire back exposed in a fitting room, or getting ambushed with a kiss against a wall with zero warning. Any regular workplace would hand out a major lawsuit and workers' comp for that. Still, I'm not the kind of toxic guy who takes advantage and ghosts like nothing happened. She had definitely earned a reward, so I pulled out my phone. I pulled up WeChat on my screen and swiftly processed a 10,000 yuan transfer. Inside the payment notes, I added this line: "Good work, little assistant. A bonus from your sugar daddy." With a quick tap, the funds were sent away. 10,000 yuan landed in her account alongside the note. "Good work, little assistant. A bonus from your sugar daddy." Leaning back against the metal bleachers, I waited for the fireworks to begin. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. A voice message popped up from Changa. And man, oh man, she was steaming like a whistling tea kettle ready to blow. "Sumo, do you think having money makes you some kind of god? You think you can just buy someone's dignity?" The moment that message dropped, I could tell she totally regretted sending it. That wasn't giving cold Ice Queen energy at all. It was straight up pissed off girlfriend energy. She was probably scrambling to unsend it, but she was way too slow. I fire back instantly. "I can't buy your dignity, but I can buy your time." That life assistant position I proposed earlier. Stop overthinking it now. It's a done deal, and this is your advance salary. Oh, and by the way, you actually fold blankets pretty well. My place is an absolute disaster zone from all those shopping bags. So come straighten it up tonight once the fair wraps up. There is zero room for negotiation here. Talk about a total, beautiful dictator move. I could vividly picture her glaring at her screen, trembling with pure rage. Yet I knew the exact thought process running through her head. She kept reading. "You fold blankets pretty well," over and over again. Low-key thrilled that I noticed such a minor detail, while simultaneously cursing my entire bloodline to the heavens. After 2 full minutes of dead silence, her response finally came through. It was hands down the most conflicted sentence in human history. "I'll pay you back what time tonight?" Translation: I refuse to be your kept woman. But also, yes, I'm showing up at your penthouse. Please come pick me up. Her mouth shouted scumbag, but her actions whispered what time. I shot back an immediate reply. "Later tonight. I'll come grab you right now." Now, here's the exact scene I missed, but can picture crystal clear. Chango was leaning against some random wall, her face burning hot enough to fry an egg on it, desperately spinning a narrative to excuse herself. He isn't a sugar daddy. He's just a ruthless debt collector. I'm not his assistant. I'm simply paying off interest. That gym kiss has been completely wiped from memory. It never happened. She cashed out the full 10,000 immediately and sent 3,000 straight to her younger sister without hesitation. "Go pay your study trip fee and treat yourself to some good food with the rest." Her sister, Xiao, she fired back with a crying emoji. "Where did you even get this much cash? Please tell me you didn't take out a loan." Chang's face flushed hot again, and she typed out a response with maximum fake composure. "Relax, my part-time gig paid out early. The boss is just some rich second-generation idiot. loaded with cash and completely brainless. He literally insisted on advancing my salary, even though that final eye roll emoji was pulling all the weight. Xiaoxi wasn't buying a single second of it, standing in the dim hallway. Out of nowhere, a voice message buzzed through, sounding tiny and completely terrified. Sis, don't lie to me. Auntie has been telling everyone back in the village that some guy in the city is keeping you as a sugar baby, and now that you've suddenly got all this cash, I'm honestly freaking out. Those words slammed into Changa like a physical blow. With trembling fingers, she gripped her phone and fired back a text. Stop listening to that toxic woman's garbage. I'm literally just working as a legitimate life assistant, handling basic cleaning and laundry. Super wealthy people have insane standards, which is why the pay is so good. Just take the money, sign up for classes, and stop making mom stress out. Hitting send, she slumped against the freezing tile wall, feeling like she could literally die of sheer embarrassment. A legitimate life assistant? Yeah, right? Just an assistant. Whose boss pinned her against a wall and kissed her 10 minutes ago, and whose roommates are convinced she's being terrorized by some kinky billionaire because of the mysterious underwear marks on her chest. Speaking of roommates, memories of Zhongling and Fong Jin flashed through her mind, staring down those red marks yesterday, fully convinced some monster was physically hurting her. Now, those juicy gossip photos were floating around everywhere, too, meaning they were probably picturing her trapped in a total 50 Shades dungeon. A quiet wave of indignation bubbled up inside her. For the record, he's not violent at all, she muttered under her breath, conceding that the kiss had actually been kind of sweet. Then, her runaway train of thought drifted into dangerous territory. Tonight, she would be completely alone at the penthouse with me, with absolutely nobody else around. Having already spotted those designer bags of women's clothes that I'd bought for previous guests, what if he expected her to wear something bizarre while she cleaned? Her wild imagination was now doing full laps around a NASCAR track, forcing her to slap herself hard on the forehead to snap out of it. Get a grip, Changa. One single kiss, and you've completely lost your mind. Pulling out her calculator app, she forced herself to budget the remaining cash. 7,000 total, with 2,000 set aside for mom's medical checkup, 500 for health supplements, 1,000 for Xiaoxi's groceries and study materials, and 3,500 locked away into emergency savings. She left zero for herself, not a single yuan. That kind of extreme penny-pinching was deeply ingrained in her bones. Checking her face temperature, with the back of her hand to be sure, she confirmed she looked like a functioning human being again, and marched right back to the anime club booth. John Ling spotted her instantly and nearly tackled her. Where on earth did you vanish to? You bolted out of here like the whole building was ablaze. Flipping her ice queen mode on, she replied, just needed some fresh air, bad mood. Unconvinced, Zhongling pulled her close and whispered, those scandalous photos in the group chat, are those of you, or are they totally photoshopped? Ignore them, Changa said, grabbing a stack of registration forms and beginning to sort them with robotic, deadpan efficiency. A flawless performance that definitely deserved an Academy Award. Zhongling's gossip flames instantly fizzled out. Okay, fine. Just know we've always got your back. Let us know if any drama pops up. Yet, as she leaned her weight against Pat Changa, something caught her attention. Changa's lips, usually dried out and cracked from stress, looked abnormally swollen and flushed vivid red. The borders were puffy, giving the impression she had just brutally devoured the most nuclear spicy noodles alive. Zhongling stood slack-jawed while her mind started buffering through a bunch of NSFW theories. Yet one glance at Changa's ice-cold death glare made her choke back every single thought. Feeling those eyes locked onto her lips, Changa low-key panicked inside and spun around abruptly, burying her face deep in the paperwork, while silently begging the universe to swallow her whole. She just needed to survive this shift today, head over to his penthouse tonight to clean up, and absolutely refused to think about what went down in that gym, or dwell on his frustratingly handsome face. A soft groan escaped her as she pressed into the flyers. It was shaping up to be an insanely long evening. Dusk was settling in, and the club fair was finally winding down. Little did I know behind the anime club table, a mini detective was completely solving my mystery. Banksia was perched on her compact stool, sorting through sign-up sheets, when Changa strolled past to grab extra flyers. A sudden gust of wind swept by carrying a distinct scent. My signature crisp cedar cologne. The exact aroma Banksia had caught yesterday. When I carried her out of the yoga studio, she froze instantly and stared at Changa. Then, with total casualness, casually dropped a loaded question. That freshman who hung around our booth earlier. Do you happen to know him? Changa kept her eyes down. Not probably just some random guy signing up. Her tone was just a fraction too rushed, and the back of her neck was flushing pink by the second. That was all the proof Banksia required. The puzzle pieces locked into place like Tetris blocks. Changa rolling home yesterday with marks all over her skin, claiming she crashed at a junior's place. Xiao Zixuan, ranting loudly about her being kept by a freshman. Changa vanishing for 20 minutes today, only to return, with conspicuously swollen lips, and now smelling faintly of my cologne. Everything pointed straight to one person. Me, the guy who bought an entire gym to protect Banksia. The infamous mysterious sugar daddy from Changa's rumors. Literally the same human being. This world is wildly small. Banksia unlocked her battered phone and pulled up our chat. Her swift fingers typed out that viral campus photo today. The one featuring Changa. Is this you? She hit send while her palms started breaking out in sweat. I was pushing myself up from the bleachers when my phone vibrated and I checked the notification. That little punching bag was messaging me directly, dropping the exact question most people would spend weeks beating around the bush over. A grin spread across my face. This girl's radar was top tier, and I am definitely not one to play the total denial card. I held down the voice note icon. Yeah, that is me. Just 5 casual words with zero explanation. No excuses, as if I were just confirming what I had for lunch. Holding the device tightly to her ear, Banksia slowly replayed those few brief seconds of audio. My voice was completely chill. A massive scandal was shaking up the campus, and I talked about it like it was just regular weather. Dropping the phone down, she fixed her gaze on the voicemail bar. A weird, hyper-specific ache settled deep inside her chest. It felt like saving up allowance money for an entire month, only to walk up to the arcade claw machine and watch some random stranger snatch the cutest teddy bear. Right before her turn, having never even held a guy's hand before. She had zero clue what heartbreak was actually supposed to feel like. She just knew her chest felt heavy and stuffed, while breathing suddenly became way harder than normal. Biting her lip hard, she proved herself an absolute pro at swallowing pain. Life had been throwing punches at her since day one, and she refused to ever let it catch her crying. This tiny sting was nothing to sweat over. Yet another nagging thought suddenly crept up behind Chong. She recalled those angry red marks from yesterday. If Sumo genuinely turned out to be the type to abuse women, Fengxia simply couldn't stand by and watch anyone else suffer. Having taken enough brutal hits from life itself, she had developed a strict zero-tolerance policy regarding other people's pain, prompting her to start typing. Chuna came back with visible injuries last time too. Deleting it immediately, she tried rewriting the message over and over. Her finger tapped furiously up and down the screen, resembling a stressed-out woodpecker. Finally, she hit send on the most cautiously phrased question. In messaging history, Chuna had some weird marks on her when she returned last time. That wasn't your doing, right? She couldn't even bring herself to use heavy, direct words, preferring to dance in gentle circles around the real issue. Standing right by the gym entrance when the notification popped up, I instantly figured out what was stressing her out. This little punching bag of a girl was already drowning deep in her own personal chaos. Yet she was wasting her remaining emotional bandwidth to worry about someone else entirely. Truly wild. Leaning my back against the glass door, I quickly fired back a reply. Do you honestly take me for the type who's into that kind of stuff? Is that seriously what you think of your uncle? Bad girls usually end up getting punished, you know? Then I added one extra line, just for fun. Also, she's nowhere close to becoming your sister-in-law anytime soon. You're stressing way too early, kid. Slipping my phone back into my pocket on the other end. Banksia felt her brain go completely boom. That uncle label was already bad enough on its own. Now he was casually tossing around sister-in-law too. This guy would happily scale any family tree in existence, just to claim a higher branch, but even so, her eyes kept getting magnetically pulled back to 4 specific words. Nowhere close yet, meaning they weren't official yet. Whatever was going on between me and Changa, it wasn't locked down, and it certainly wasn't sealed. The claw machine hadn't actually closed its metal grip on her yet. Her heart skipped a wild beat before she immediately gave herself a mental reality check. Su Bongxia, get a grip on yourself. He explicitly said, nowhere close, not. Never gonna happen. And he definitely didn't say a single word about you. What on earth are you even celebrating right now? She hesitated, then tried to type out a response. Nope, way too aggressive. Delete that. Ugh, feels too cold. Delete. Flipping through her endless library of custom emojis, she finally landed on a grumpy little bunny sticker, splat flat on its face, thumping the ground in absolute defeat with tiny fists. Catching sight of that bunny, I burst out laughing, right in the middle of the field, thinking this girl was low-key adorable. Right on cue, Zhongling and Fong Jin trudged back from the storage room, completely covered in dust. With dramatic flair, Zhongling clapped her hands. I'm officially dead, but we are so done. We're hitting the street food stalls tonight, and no arguments are accepted. Fong Jin, standing there with her bag, Chang'e mentally mapped out an escape route from dinner, knowing full well she had a penthouse to get to tonight. Seeing how hyped her roommates were, however, she couldn't bring herself to say no. She gave a reluctant nod through gritted teeth, already stressing over outfit changes and the headache of time management, plus the absurd reality that somewhere across the sprawling campus, a billionaire holding 200 million yuan was waiting for her to fold his laundry. Now, I wasn't actually chilling in that girl's dorm, but the insider intel I've pieced together is absolute comedy gold. At 6:30 p.m., the roommates stumbled back from their food run, slightly tipsy on sweet fruit wine. Zhongling and Fong Jin instantly collapsed onto their beds. Then Chang'e, the woman who practically treats mirrors like sworn enemies, did something so unprecedented it probably shook the foundations of a space-time continuum. She willingly pulled open her closet doors, retrieved her most form-fitting cream knit top, changed into it, gave herself a quick once-over in the mirror, and untied her ponytail to secure it higher and tighter, tucking away any stray strands. After fishing through a drawer to find a lipstick that was essentially reduced to a tiny red stub, she carefully applied it. Chang'e, actually putting on lipstick just to clean my apartment? Peering down from the top bunk, Fong Jin poked her head over. Heading out. Just a part-time gig. A look passed between the two drunk roommates. That was so loaded you could literally knit a sweater from it, springing straight out from under her blankets. Like a heat-seeking missile, Zhongling yelled. A part-time job? You mean you're going to see the handsome guy from those photos? Barefoot and buzzing with zero filter and pure liquid courage, she continued. Hey, fair enough. He might act a bit rough around the edges, but his face? Girl, I downloaded that group photo and zoomed in 3 separate times. That jawline and that side profile. Honestly, if it were me, I'd volunteer for that gig in a heartbeat. Nodding so vigorously Fong Jin looked like her neck might snap. She added, Seriously, Chang'e, you're kind of selfish. We genuinely thought you were being exploited. And almost dialed 911. Turns out, you've been a totally willing participant this entire time. Chang'e's cheeks flushed red with embarrassment. She quickly turned her back and pretended to tidy up her tote bag. You guys are totally overthinking it. It's literally just work. Throwing an arm warmly around her shoulder, Zhongling immediately went full protective big sister mode. Look, we're all grown-ups here. Sure, young folks have got that restless energy, and a bit of hype is no big deal. Just keep your guard up. Never let any guy cross the line just because he's a total 10. Chang'e was dying to scream out a proper defense and clarify that those weird marks came from a cramped little heater instead of some wild BDSM dungeon. Yet right now, with snapshots spamming every single campus gossip group chat, whatever she tried to say would merely come across as a lame cover-up. Fong Jin's rolled over to deliver the final blow. Honestly, maybe Chang'e is secretly into that hardcore vibe. I literally stumbled upon this psychology thread online, claiming girls who act totally chill in public are absolute wild cards behind closed doors. And guys are obsessed with that contrast. A plush pillow came flying across the dim bedroom, cutting through the air, and smacked Fong Jin's dead in the forehead. Shut the hell up, Jins. Yelping softly, Fong Jins scrambled back into her blanket fort. Then Zhongling committed an absolute betrayal. Dashing toward her desk, she fired up a shopping app, punched 3 strange characters into the search bar, and shoved her glowing phone screen right up against Chang'e's face. Do you want me to order one of these for you? Squinting suspiciously at the display, Chang'e thought it looked like weird toothpaste. What on earth is this? Adopting a serious life coach tone, Zhongling leaned in. I'm dead serious. Hundreds of relationship gurus swear by this stuff online. If you guys are going that hard tonight, having this handy will seriously prevent any friction injuries. Plus, it does wonders for your skin. He'll appreciate the low-key thoughtfulness Still completely clueless, Chang'e blinked. She quickly snatched her own phone to look up the product name. After 3 agonizing seconds of reading, she finally grasped the horrifying reality on her screen. Her complexion shifted from pale pink to burning crimson, spreading all the way down her neck. She was basically a walking human thermometer about to pop. Visible steam could practically be seen hissing from her ears. Swatting Zhongling's phone away in a panic, she grabbed her backpack and bolted for the exit. Zhongling, I'm going to murder you, she hissed from the hallway. Stay safe out there, Chang'e. Grab an umbrella just in case. Slam went the heavy door with such force that the entire dorm hallway rattled, slumped against the ice-cold, tiled wall outside. She stood gasping for air with a racing heartbeat. Her mind felt like an absolute war zone. Zhongling's annoying, grinning face flashed at her head, alongside that cursed product photo, while the whole campus remained convinced she was trapped in some sketchy hookup deal. The most tragic part was she was literally just going over to fold laundry. She was practically acting as a free maid. Yet the entire university fantasized she was starring in an R-rated movie. Then a completely forbidden thought crept into her mind. What if he actually tried something bold tonight? Would she somehow end up needing that ridiculous item? Panicking at the mere thought of that possibility, she violently slapped her own forehead. A sudden crack reverberated through the hollow, abandoned stairwell. You're so done for, Machanga. Inhaling deeply, she finally headed downstairs. Now this is low-key the part that just breaks my heart. Even if the truth only hit me way later on. All that time, Zhongling and Fong Jinx were actively hyping Chang'e up, cheering her on and prepping her for the big date. Meanwhile, Banksia sat quietly at her desk, uttering 0 words while mindlessly reorganizing books. She was completely invisible per usual, yet inside, she was getting torn to shreds, literally like feeling somebody slice your chest open with a pair of dull scissors, dragging it out one agonizing snip at a time. She had to sit there and watch Chang'e, a girl who honestly never gave a damn about looks, pick out outfits and put on lipstick for a guy. Well, her guy. Okay, not her guy, not anybody's guy technically, just the dude she'd been obsessing over nonstop since yesterday. Every single joke, every excited squeal echoing from the roommates, every piece of advice handed out. Each word pierced her raw nerves like a sharp needle. And man, she knew this exact pain. Every college guy has probably been through it at least once. Just sitting back in the dorm while your roommate excitedly maps out a whole love confession, with everybody else pitching in ideas, only for the girl being chased to be the very one you've been secretly crushing on hard. You can't call it out. You can't even act jealous. You just sit frozen pretending everything is totally chill, while your stomach churns with pure acid. Quietly sniffing back tears, she stood up, stuffed a plastic bag with essentials for her mom's hospital stay, pulled on her faded gray jacket, and slipped out without a word, without uttering a peep. She trudged down the pathway toward the campus gates, and right there, tucked into a shadowy corner, where the overhead streetlights couldn't quite reach, sat my sleek, hyper-expensive, completely untouchable black Panamera. Chuna strode right up, yanked open the passenger door, and climbed in before the door shut with a muffled thud. Out in the dead silence of the campus night, that little sound felt deafening, every single thud landing, like a physical blow straight to Banksia's heart. Little did I know at the time, while Chang'e was down on her knees, sorting through my designer wardrobe, an absolute military-grade strategy session was simultaneously going down in a hospital room, located all the way across town. Pushing open the door, Banksia stepped into her mom's room, clutching a dented thermos, a totally fake smile plastered across her face. When she had literally practiced in the hallway mirror earlier, manually stretching the corners of her mouth with her fingers. Peak professional-grade grief concealment. Her mom, Lu Yujian, glanced up briefly from a drama playing on her phone, took one look, and immediately went nuclear. Were you fighting with that Su boy again? Startled, Feng Xiao almost dropped the heavy thermos onto her own foot. No, Mom. Don't just guess random things. Her expression was flashing a neon sign screaming yes, while her mouth desperately muttered no. Undeniably the world's worst liar, Lu Yujun didn't even blink an eye. Not fighting? So he's got a girlfriend then? I bet you caught him with another girl. 3 straight questions landed with absolute precision. Inside Banksia's racing mind, that memory of Chang'e slipping into my Panamera replay looped on repeat. A heavy wave of bitterness instantly flooded her chest half an hour later. Her gaze remained glued to her sneakers, while her trembling fingers relentlessly clawed at her canvas bag strap. Speechless and completely paralyzed, she couldn't utter a single word. Silence speaks volumes, acting as a total admission of guilt. Lu Yuzhen let out a deep breath, carrying the heavy, weary sigh of someone who had seen it all. Listen up closely, because if you ghost him right this second, scrub his digits, and act like absolute strangers, the absolute worst label you'll catch is being ungrateful. However, if you drag this out until you're in way too deep, trying to claw your way out will cost you your entire existence. That blunt reality check completely shattered Banksia, forcing her to spill every single detail. She unloaded about the campus gossip swirling around Chang'e and me, along with Chang'e's suspiciously swollen lips after vanishing for 20 minutes. Even Chang'e, getting all glammed up tonight before hopping into my passenger seat. Every last bit of it came gushing out in a messy, sniffling avalanche of emotions. She wrapped up her emotional confession with a pathetic little justification. I shouldn't even be entertaining thoughts like this. He's insanely rich and rolls around in million-yuan whips. Considering he has already bailed us out so heavily, my only focus should be grinding to pay back that hospital debt. Lu Yuzhen looked ready to pick up the nearest steel lunchbox and crack her daughter's skull wide open out of sheer frustration. Cut out all that dramatic murder talk right now, and answer me just this one thing. She pinned Banksia down with a blistering glare fierce enough to melt steel. If starting this exact second you block his number, purge your WeChat, and cut off all ties, then act like he's a ghost. Whenever you bump into him around campus, would doing that actually break Fengxia's heart? Forcing herself to picture never seeing that arrogant smirk again, or never hearing him casually refer to himself as uncle. Her chest suddenly felt like it was packed with shattered glass, razor sharp and jagged, making it impossible to either swallow down or spit back out. Hot tears welled up instantly, leaving her incapable of lying with a flat no, yet lacking the nerve to shake her head in denial either. She just nervously kept picking away at her battered bag strap. Without giving her a single second to recover, Lu Yuzhen kept pressing. Question 2. Your gorgeous roommate hopped in his ride tonight. So how would you feel if they officially started dating? Picture regular weekly dates and her strutting back into your dorm, hand in hand with him, sharing goodnight kisses right beneath your building's window frame. I suppose you just stand right there smiling and clapping for them? Banksy is 20-year-old. Emotional defense wall completely crumbled in about 1.5 seconds flat. Her head dropped so low in defeat that her chin practically rested against her collarbone, with her shoulders convulsing and her eyes glowing bloodshot red. Every single ounce of jealousy and hidden heartbreak she had buried away got ruthlessly dragged out into the harsh light. Sensing an opening, Lu Yuzhen immediately went straight for the final blow. Are they actually an official item now? Have they met each other's folks, or are they planning a wedding already? Looking up in a daze, Fengxia mumbled, I honestly don't think so. He's only a freshman and isn't even legally old enough to get married yet. Wiping her wet eyes with her sleeve, she added, he explicitly told me himself this afternoon, stating that Chang'e isn't even remotely close to becoming my sister-in-law. Lu Yuzhen slapped her own thigh with such explosive force. With a sharp squeak, the hospital bed shifted. And it's totally fair game, right? Once a marriage certificate is missing, skill dictates who wins. The other woman becomes the actual loser here. Definitely not you, she declared, catching her breath. Right now, he's just a single young guy, meaning zero stealing and zero breaking of rules. Why on earth should you forfeit before that other chick even makes her first move? Banksia fixed an unblinking stare on her bedridden, four-drip mother, who was suddenly pulsing with the fierce tactical energy of a five-star general. Her brain was seriously questioning reality at this point. Had her mom secretly been binge-watching those cheesy 1 cent per episode CEO romance dramas? How else could she possibly deliver these lines with such intense conviction? Completely ignoring the bewildered stares, Lu Yuzhen kept pushing, fully on a mission, because even if it wasn't your pretty roommate, a guy like him, super rich, ridiculously handsome, and generous, when has he ever lacked a lineup of girls just throwing themselves at him? If you refused to fight back, even if you landed him first, some aggressive woman would eventually kick you out anyway. Every single sentence landed like a hard slap, jolting Banksia's scattered brain cells right back into formation. Her mom was right. Even if there was no Chong, there would always pop up another Chong, like a Li Chong or a Wang Chong, standing silently in the shadows and watching from afar, was going to win her absolutely nothing. Noticing the defeated retreat, gradually fading from her daughter's eyes. Liu Yuzhen immediately shifted gears to phase 2 tactical instructions. To actually beat those fancy designer girls, you gotta play it unconventional. Like a seasoned military strategist, she raised 2 bony fingers, claiming you need to capture both his stomach and his body. Banksia practically launched off her plastic stool, her face flushing rapidly from a bright red to a deep purple. Mom, what are you even talking about? What is going through your mind? Rolling her eyes so intensely they nearly popped out of her head, Liu Yuzhen clarified, I meant your yoga training. All that therapeutic massage stuff you picked up. When a man comes home completely exhausted, you greet him with hot fish soup and follow up by working on his tired shoulders and neck. That kind of genuine, hands-on comfort outperforms any girl begging for designer bags by 100 times over. Frozen in place, Banksia let her brain fully recalibrate. Oh, massaging sore shoulders actually made a ridiculous amount of sense. While luxury gifts were out of her league, she could offer a physical touch point that nobody else could. At 10:30 p.m., the hospital hallway was cast in deep shadows. Sitting alone on a bench outside the ward, Banksia buried her face in her hands. Through 60 seconds of intense internal warfare. Then she unlocked her chat app, thumbs hovering anxiously, heart hammering as she typed out, Are you free sometime soon? I just picked up a new shoulder and neck therapy technique, and I totally want to practice it on you. Is that cool? She didn't even bother checking for typos. Squeezed her eyes shut, hit send, and immediately prayed to every single deity in existence that he wouldn't think she was a total midnight lunatic. Right at that very moment, up in the penthouse at Thompson Riviera, my Italian leather sofa was holding my stretched-out frame, while my phone buzzed away on the crystal coffee table. I didn't even bother to check the screen, given that the scene playing out right in front of me was low-key way more captivating. Shona was down on the Persian carpet, rocking a cream knit top with her cheeks blazing bright crimson, meticulously sorting and folding all of my garments, just like some dedicated little housewife. The exact angle of her forward bend stretched that tight sweater fabric in ways that honestly deserved some kind of physics award. Life was hitting different as the Panamera glided into the underground garage, resembling a sleeping dragon slipping back into its dark cave. Engine killed, total silence, with just the sound of 2 people breathing in the shadows. Shifting out of my seat, I glanced over at the passenger side door, where Chang'e was super carefully unbuckling her seatbelt, acting like she was defusing a high-stakes bomb. That sleek black strap slipped down past her collarbone, brushing against a strip of skin glowing so intensely white it could practically light up a room. She had zero clue how dangerously aesthetic that whole move looked. Keeping my mouth shut, I flashed a quiet grin. She stepped out of the vehicle and immediately put a solid meter of clear distance between us, walking with an unnaturally rigid spine, shoulders back and steps super measured, even though her fingers kept nervously tugging at the hem of her knit top. Pull, release. Pull, release. Total subconscious tick she didn't even realize she was doing. How many times now? I casually threw out the question, while walking toward the elevator banks. Her pacing instantly stuttered. How many times what? You've been up to my place. This is what, the 3rd time? Yet she was still acting this jumpy, her ear tips flushing bright pink, as the blush bled down across her cheeks like watercolor paint. Who's nervous? Came her voice, cold as ice, while her walking speed spontaneously spiked by 30%. Classic Chang'e contradiction right there. Inside the elevator car, she pressed her body deep into the farthest corner, as if I were giving off toxic radiation. The harsh overhead lighting transformed her into living porcelain. That complexion of hers was genuinely surreal. Not some makeup store foundation white, but straight up born with it white. So translucent you could trace the blue veins beneath her collarbone. Leaning back against the opposite handrail, I threw a single, passing glance in her direction, and her shoulder blades locked up immediately, like someone had jammed a steel rod straight down her spine. What are you staring at? Just thinking about something. What? Whether that top might be a size too small. Lowering her gaze to inspect herself, she saw that the cream knit was indeed pretty form-fitting, carving out the lines of her neck and collarbone, like a fine sculpture before her face basically combusted. It's not small, this is just how this particular style fits. I murmured, before adding, looks good though. She squeezed her fist so tightly that her fingernails dug deep into her palm, making it obvious she was battling the urge to faceplant into the wall. And right on cue, the universe decided to amp up the drama. A horrific metallic screech suddenly tore through the elevator shaft. Out of nowhere, the entire cabin started shaking violently. Twice the overhead lights flickered, before popping with a dull explosion and plunging everything into total darkness. A brief wave of surprise hit me, not out of fear, but pure shock that Thompson Riviera, Shanghai's most absurdly expensive address, could actually experience a total elevator failure. After 15 years of high-end aging, it turns out even billionaire buildings show their age. Chang'e let out a sudden, high-pitched squeak of pure terror, losing her footing during the abrupt lurch. She pitched forward blindly, with her hands scrambling for anything to hold on to. Cutting through the pitch black, I grabbed her waist and reeled her right against my chest, safe and sound. Against me, she was trembling like a leaf in a hurricane, right through her thin knit top. I could feel her heart racing, Jack, hammering away at roughly 9,000 beats a minute. Securing her with one arm, I calmly fished out my phone with my free hand, flashed the light on, and wedged it into the metal railing. I even had a brief second to wonder if I could slap the management with an emotional damage lawsuit. Leaning down, I brought my lips right to her ear. Who knew a grown woman could be this terrified of the dark? She bit down on her lip until it turned stark white, her long eyelashes fluttering like panicked butterflies. Her mouth stayed completely shut, but her body told the real story. She buried herself deeper into my chest, as if trying to crawl straight into my ribcage. My thumb hit the emergency call button, and security picked up to confirm that maintenance was dispatching a crew within 10 minutes. During those 10 agonizing minutes, the ventilation completely died, as the temperature spiked, turning our tiny box into an absolute pressure cooker of raw tension. My fingers started absent-mindedly tracing circles on her waist. Because, hey, why the heck not when Chang'e finally snapped back to reality? She realized she was clinging to me like an octopus on a boulder. She shoved hard against my chest to make a break for it. Instead of letting go, I actually tightened my grip a little bit, just enough to completely cut off any escape route. Stop squirming unless you want the elevator to jiggle and send you flying. That counts as a workplace injury, and I would have to foot the bill. Her face flushed crimson as she glared up at me, her eyes blazing, demanding to know if I could take anything seriously. Leaning right back down by her ear, I whispered that I am dead serious as my official assistant. If you get wrecked on a clock, it is entirely my liability. Right around note 8. The elevator suddenly dropped another half floor down, with a violent shudder. Chang'e screamed, completely abandoning every shred of dignity. She slammed squarely into my chest, leaving zero empty space between us. It was total body contact, completely sealed off, without a single molecule of air left between our bodies. The sheer physics of this sudden impact caused my right hand, which had been minding its own business on her waist, to slip downward and land squarely on a region of unbelievable softness, an insane structural integrity, boasting truly remarkable elasticity. Acting strictly as a healthy adult male, I decided not to pull my hand away immediately. Instead, I quickly sized things up with a totally objective assessment, just for research purposes, followed by 3 seconds of dead silence. Heavy breathing echoed in the dim space until a tiny, quivering voice piped up from against my chest. And I refused to budge an inch, keeping my stance completely steady. Instead of letting go, I subtly shifted my grip a bit higher. She instantly froze up like a stiff piece of lumber, and then out came the absolute sweetest sound that had ever graced my ears. A pathetic, tear-soaked little whisper straight from a trapped kitten. Please don't squeeze. And suddenly the system went completely haywire. Ding. Target mood changed dramatically. A massive surge in affection values was recorded, jumping 10% to a total of 30%, which triggered a major milestone. A brand new hidden trait had just been unlocked, unveiling the husband as absolute authority explanation protocol. Our target lost her biological father early on, and consequently grew up missing a strong male protector in her life. Deep down, her subconscious frantically craves a dominant figure who can shield her from all of life's chaos. The second she mentally locks onto a man as her ultimate pillar of strength, she unleashes a terrifying level of intense loyalty, showing devotion and obedience that goes way beyond normal boundaries. To put it simply, once she finally picks her guy, she's riding with him through thick and thin. Wild horses couldn't drag her away from his side. I stood motionless there inside the pitch-black elevator, with one hand still lingering right where it definitely shouldn't be. gazing intently at the glowing blue, holographic text floating right in front of my eyes while thinking to myself. So that was the hidden attribute all along. Her icy exterior was nothing more than a tough suit of armor, forged by a fatherless girl who had been forced to fight her battles alone for years. Beneath that chilly facade, she wasn't searching for a mere equal partner. What she really wanted was an impenetrable fortress, someone powerful enough that she could finally give herself permission to stop acting so tough, and I just cleared whatever arbitrary secret checkpoint her guarded subconscious had put in place. With 30% of her hidden trait now unlocked, we were officially cooking. The system window hung, suspended right in my field of view, spelling out the details crystal clear. Husband as absolute authority is real. This literal ice queen who usually made arrogant rich boys wilt like dead flowers with a single hostile glare, secretly craved nothing more than a strong-willed man, capable of taking full control of the steering wheel. Once she fixed her sights on her true target, she would morph into the ultimate devoted wife straight out of some ancient dynastic tale. You couldn't tear her away, even if you used a tow truck. A smirk crept across my face in the darkness. This unexpected perk turned out way better than I could have imagined. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered back on, and the elevator motor whined back into action. Chang'e practically launched herself out of my grip, looking like a startled feline that had just gotten its tail stepped on, while frantically smoothing down every single crease my hands had left on her outfit. Out of nowhere, my phone started buzzing like crazy. Some person named Shunzi, who was apparently the newly appointed property manager assigned exclusively to the penthouse level, was calling to desperately grovel over the sudden elevator breakdown, delivering the most painstakingly over-rehearsed apology speech I had ever had the displeasure of listening to. Please accept our deepest apologies for this terrible oversight. Mr. Su, allow me to bring up a small token and apologize to you in person. My eyes were way too glued to Chang's face, flipping through like 17 shades of pure crimson, for me to give a single damn about property management politics. Let tomorrow deal with itself, because nobody's knocking on my door tonight. With a sharp elevator ding, Chuna practically rocketed out, as if someone had blasted her straight out of a cannon. She was desperate for literally anything to keep her frantic hands occupied and block her brain from endlessly replaying those last 10 minutes. Scarcely had she taken 2 steps toward the shoe cabinet before I slammed the front door shut behind us, caught her grip, whirled her around, and slammed her straight against the cold marble wall. One hand slid under her chin while my head dropped, crashing lips onto hers with zero warning. No asking for permission, and absolutely no mercy. Raising her fists, she threw a couple of weak thumps against my chest, offering the feeble resistance of a pissed-off butterfly. Within 15 seconds, her legs were trembling so violently that she had to clutch fistfuls of my shirt hem just to keep herself upright. She was hanging on for dear life like a drowning soul, clutching stray driftwood while I completely dismantled every last trace of her composure. The ambient temperature in the dimly lit entryway skyrocketed as my free hand caught the bottom hem of her cheap, slightly worn at top, and slid right underneath. My fingers traced a path up the smooth terrain of her back, located that familiar row of metal clasps, and flicked them open. In one swift, practiced motion, a faint whisper of fabric discarded her final line of defense in a thin air. Left suddenly unsupported by any structure, the knit top slumped down her rounded shoulders all the way to her elbows. Like an avalanche of white snow, I was fully prepared to keep pushing forward with this thorough investigation when my gaze suddenly stalled mid-descent. Beneath the warm, overhead glow of the motion sensor light, spread across skin that ought to have been flawless porcelain, lay a pattern of dark, ugly bruises, vicious purple and red welts, stretching from her shoulders down past her delicate collarbone, with those harsh underwear straps still visibly dug in, looking raw and angry. Every ounce of playful heat in my expression evaporated instantly, and a totally unexpected surge welled up in its place. A deep, genuine irritation directed not at her, but at the whole messed-up situation, at the harsh reality that this girl had been walking around in sheer agony all day long, putting on a brave smile and pretending everything was fine, simply because she couldn't afford garments that actually fit her body. Stepping backward, I stared straight into her flushed face, reddened from oxygen loss and surprise. her glistening eyes wide with total confusion and panic as to why I had abruptly cut things off. Without offering a single word of explanation, I grasped her wrist, dragged her over to the living room sofa, and pressed firmly on her shoulders until she sat down. Heading swiftly into the storage room, I ransacked the medical kit until my fingers brushed against a tube of bruise ointment, then hurried right back out to her, squeezing a dollop onto my index finger. Without cracking a single joke, I leaned in close and began gently dabbing it across those angry marks. The medicinal cream was freezing cold, while my fingertips stayed warm, and that sudden contrast made her flinch, causing her thin shoulders to tremble. I lightened my touch even more, working the medicine in small circles, letting body heat push it into the skin. The problem was that some of those marks traced along her collarbone and continued downward, toward territory that required very careful navigation. My calloused fingertips inevitably brushed the edge of a zone that sent a visible electric current through her entire body. She bit her lip hard. Those wet, shimmering eyes stared straight at me while I worked. Then, she asked the question she'd been choking on all night. Her voice came out cracked and small. "Do you think I'm the kind of woman who lets anyone touch her? As long as they pay." I didn't even look up. Instead, I curled my medicine-smeared finger and flicked her right in the middle of her forehead. A perfect forehead flick thunk, crystal clear in the silent living room. She slapped both hands over her forehead, and the tears she'd been barely holding back almost broke free from the sheer surprise pain. I grabbed a wet wipe from the coffee table and slowly cleaned the ointment off my hands. Looked at her forehead clutched, eyes overflowing the most pathetically adorable expression known to humankind. "Stop writing yourself into some tragic drama. If I actually thought you were easy, you wouldn't be sitting on this couch, getting medical treatment right now. You'd be on your knees on that carpet working." She froze, hands still on her forehead. Brain buffering. That sentence was crude, unfiltered, completely inappropriate by any normal standard of human communication. And it was exactly what she needed to hear, because buried in that rough, ridiculous, zero-elegant statement was a truth so blunt it couldn't be faked. I didn't see her as cheap. I didn't see her as a transaction. If I did, tonight would look very different. She watched me put the medical kit away. Her eyes were completely red now, but the tears weren't from sadness or the forehead flick. For the first time in her life, someone had given her something she'd never known. She was starving for safety. The feeling of a wall at her back. That wasn't cold marble, but warm and solid and completely unshakable. A man who could pin her against a wall 1 minute and gently apply medicine to her bruises the next. Who could be crude and gentle in the same breath, without either one being fake. She sat on that sofa, holding her stinging forehead, and felt her last inner wall quietly crumble to dust. Changa practically launched herself off the sofa and started stress cleaning. Grabbed my clothes off the Persian carpet, knelt down, and began smoothing every wrinkle with surgical precision. Full traditional housewife mode activated. The hidden attribute was running at maximum power, and I hadn't even asked her to do anything. My phone buzzed on a coffee table. I glanced at it lazily. "Thanks, yeah. Are you free soon? I just figured out a dope shoulder massage trick. Want to be my practice dummy?" An eyebrow went up on my face. Midnight moves were being pulled by the little punching bag. Her mom's coaching was low-key, paying off instantly. No reply came from me, though. The woman, currently kneeling on my carpet, demanded way higher priority as I strode over and dropped down right behind Changa, both arms wrapped firmly around her waist, before pulling her tight into my chest. Mid-fold, her hands froze completely with the shirt dangling in the air. Against her back, my chest rested flat and solid. My heartbeat could be felt by her, while hers was going absolutely, wildly berserk. Then the floodgates crashed open as she burst into tears. Not some cute, delicate crying session. A heavy, massive, ugly cry instead. Tears soaked into my rug as the words finally started pouring out. Everything spilled over in a massive rush. Her dad passing away back when she was tiny. Her mother's endless health battles. The mountain of meds and the total inability to work. How she had been grinding through dead-end part-time gigs ever since she was old enough to grip a mop handle. Plus her parasitic aunt and uncle, who swiped her late father's accident compensation payout without ever returning a single penny, and kept showing up just to harass her poor family, while plotting to steal the land of the old house. That exact reason forced me to take that companion app job tonight. She choked out with a cracking voice. Literally nothing was left for us anymore. Looking up at me, She searched my face for any hint of pity, disgust, or pure judgment. None of those things were given to her. No dramatic speeches or empty future promises dropped from my lips. My hand simply went to her head to ruffle her hair playfully, as if she were just a stressed-out little puppy. That's it. That is what has been eating you alive. Deliberately casual vibes dripped from my voice, sounding like she just told me the cafeteria ran out of basic rice. Using one single finger, her chin was tilted upward. Your family drama doesn't even show up on my radar. If the sky ever falls down, your sugar daddy is standing right here, holding it up high. It was the absolute stupidest, most inappropriate, most grammatically offensive line ever manufactured by my brain. It worked better than 1,000 love poems combined. With red, tear-soaked eyes, she gazed up and planted a kiss on me. He kissed me hard, marking the very first time she initiated a salty, tear-flavored, and completely surrendered kiss. The back of her head was grabbed firmly as I deepened it, because letting a rare moment go to waste is a crime. When the ultimate ice queen finally melts, across the Persian rug, we rolled together. While the room temperature climbed to dangerous heights, my hand was already reaching for the bottom hem of her knit top, when sudden ring went the phone, delivering the most violently mood-destroying phone call in the entire history of telecommunications. Like a live grenade just went off, Changa scrambled out of my arms. It turned out to be her sister, Xiaoxi. Xiaoxi literally never calls this late. Absolutely never. With visibly shaking hands, Changa answered the call. Jess. Xiaoxi was crying her eyes out through uncontrolled sobs. Xiaoxi was screaming through sobs. Come home, Mom collapsed. Changa's body went limp. She crumpled onto the carpet, like someone had cut her strings. What happened? She just went to the doctor. Xiaoxi was crying so hard, she could barely breathe. Its Annie mom was happy about the 3,000 you sent. But Annie found out, came over. Started telling everyone in the village that you're being kept by a man in Shanghai, that you're selling yourself for dirty money. Mom heard it, and her blood pressure spiked. She fainted. The neighbors took her to the township clinic. Changa's world started spinning. She hung up without saying goodbye and started frantically searching for train tickets on her cracked phone. Every late-night departure was grayed out. No trans, no buses. No way home. I watched her falling apart. Took the phone out of her trembling hands. She looked up at me with the most helpless eyes I'd ever seen on a human being. I held her face in both hands, wiped the tears with my thumbs. Don't panic, let's go see what's happening first. I'll drive you, she found. One tiny sliver of rationality left in her brain. Tomorrow was Monday. She had classes. Missing without permission could destroy her scholarship application. She needed to call her class advisor, the infamous Ms. Suman. She dialed with shaking fingers. The phone rang for over a minute before a voice dripping with sleep. Fury picked up Mu Changa. Do you have any idea what time it is? This better be good. Changa sniffled and tried to steady her voice. Miss Sue, there's a family emergency. My mom is in the hospital. I need a few days off. That's when I grabbed my car keys from the table. The metallic jingle traveled straight through the phone. Speaker Muchona. Is there a man with you, Sue? Man's tone flipped instantly, from sleepy to prosecutorial. The school has rules about staying out overnight. You're out with a man in the middle of the night, and now you're fabricating excuses to skip class. Do you want to be publicly disciplined? Chuna stood there getting verbally shredded, too shocked and too broken to fight back. Not a single word came out. I watched her face crumble. One more degree, that was enough. I took the phone. Who do you think you're throwing your weight around? Dead silence on the other end. This is Sumo Freshman Business School. Save your rules, I don't care. Sue man spotted sumo. You're out with a female student overnight. This means disciplinary action for both of you. I laughed cold short. Zero amusement, discipline me. Report me, put it all on MY record. I honestly couldn't care less. Leaning closer to the receiver for my grand finale, I made sure she knew we were fighting to save a life right now. Regardless of whether you sign off on this leave or not, we're rolling out. I slammed the line down right in the middle of her gasp. Snatching up a heavy coat, I tossed it straight at Changa. Throw this on, because we are busting out of here right now. Yanking her to her feet, I marched us right out the door. Over at the hospital, however, Banksia was perched alone on a freezing plastic bench, glaring at her phone like it owed her cash. It had been a brutal 30 minutes since sending that text. Yet my chat log showed absolute crickets. A pale glow from the screen illuminated the most heartbroken face in all of Shanghai. She muttered to herself that Mom's game plan was garbage after all, figuring a guy like me probably gave 0 FS about a late-night text from a random girl. I was likely out kicking it with Changa anyway, shoving the device deep into her purse. She buried her face in her knees and curled up tight in that deserted hospital corridor, just like a wounded animal licking its scars in the dark. Little did she know, I wasn't ghosting her at all. Instead, I was hauling tail at 160 kilometers per hour down the freeway, speeding toward a village 400 clicks away. My Panamera tore through the midnight air, looking like a streak of black lightning. Chuna was huddled in the passenger bucket seat, swimming in my oversized jacket, and looking like a drenched stray kitten caught in a downpour. The tears had stopped, though her whole body was still shaking. Reaching into the center console, I grabbed a handful of tissues and dropped them in her lap. Dry your face off because when we roll up to your village, if your aunt catches you looking like a total mess, she's going to smell blood in the water. Dabbing her eyes, Chuna whispered a quiet thank you. Save it, I replied, seeing as I just chewed out our professor over the phone. And we'll probably both be writing epic apology essays. Once we get back, she gave a firm shake of her head. Right now, university rules and disciplinary action rated somewhere between irrelevant and total garbage. Not even getting expelled could have slowed her down tonight. Back in a faculty housing complex, Suman was boiling mad in her bed, her chest heaving as she breathed, hatching a scheme to report both of us straight to the dean's office. She had zero clue what steamroller was headed her way, but that was a problem for future me. Keeping my eyes on the highway, I maintained a steady cruise speed and a totally chill tone. Fill me in on this aunt of yours. Chuna stayed silent for a few heavy seconds, and then the whole story came pouring out. Her dad, Mu Jianghua, had perished in a tragic mining accident 6 years prior. She was 15 at the time, and her little sister was only 12. The mining company coughed up 100,000 yuan in death benefits, which her mom used to wipe out old debts, while stashing the rest away for schooling. That was right when her uncle and aunt stepped in, claiming her late father had pocketed a 50,000 yuan loan from them, and demanding every penny of the compensation payout. Did he actually borrow a dime? No way. Dad always slipped them holiday cash envelopes every single Lunar New Year, and never took a single cent from those vultures. Only problem was, her aunt didn't give a damn about facts. Right at the village entrance, she loitered with intent, making sure everyone heard her claim that Changa's mom had totally snatched their cash, while whining that a widowed mom and 2 poor kids were low-key bullying the hard-working locals before they locked eyes on the ultimate bag, which was the household's plot spanning half an acre of residential land, combining both the front and backyard spaces. Once whisperings sparked about a brand-new highway, potentially carving right through the settlement. That property suddenly sat on a gold mine worth 300 to 400 grand, just in eminent domain payouts. That exact moment triggered the aunt to go totally unhinged and feral, prompting her to file a petition with the local elders, under the greedy demand that the real estate be divided equally among both sibling households. And when that sneaky power play flopped, she unleashed a relentless harassment campaign, ripping out every single crop that Changa's mother had painstakingly cultivated in the yard, tearing them up roots and all, while violently yanking fresh laundry clean off the clotheslines, to toss them straight into muddy puddles. During festive holidays, she would post up under the village's ancient tree, loudly broadcasting to any passing soul that a dark curse haunted Changa's household, blaming them for driving their own husband to an early grave with bad juju.